Okay, Sheriff Hilbrecht, would you lead us in a word of prayer, please?
Sure. Will you bow with me? Dear Lord Jesus, Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Lord. We thank you for the beautiful weather we have outside. We pray that you'd give us your wisdom as the court makes decisions on how to spend the county's money, Lord, and how to lead the county. Lord, we pray for your blessings in that. We ask that you watch over us and let us bring you glory in everything that we do. We ask it in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Join me in the pledge, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to call this Marshall County Fiscal Court August 20th, 2024 meeting to order. Our first guest we have here, proud to call him my friend. He does an outstanding job, a great police chief, father, husband, many other things. To be nominated for some things is a big accomplishment, but to receive the honor of Police Chief of the Year, considering there are 417 cities, is quite an accomplishment. With that said, Chief Sanderson, we are so proud of you as a county, a city, all of the citizens for that accomplishment. Would you like to say a few words? Nothing like being put on the spot, right?
Now you know what's coming, Caleb.
Here's the plaque I received. I just wanted to bring that and show you guys. Like you said, it's just an honor to be nominated, much less selected. I just want to first thank God for putting me where He wanted me to be. Thank my team. I couldn't do anything without them. My family, the mayor, the council support, all the support from the city. So there's no better place to police in the state. So just want to thank everybody. So appreciate it.
Keep up the great job. We'd like to get a photo real quick if you don't care.
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to ask Mr. Pagel to do these next two.
I'm going to start off with the next award. We've got Calvert City Police Department recently receiving accreditation. I think it happened a few months ago, but they just picked up the plaque not long ago. So sounds like, and just talking to Chief Cannon, first got accredited in 1998 and has gotten renewal of accreditation from the Kentucky Association of Chiefs of Police. And whatever I say is wrong, correct me in a minute when you get your chance here. It involves an online audit, right, of many standards uploading, and then a physical audit. And you can explain that, but congratulations for the Calvert City Police Department.
Yes, thank you much. So Calvert City Police Department was first accredited in July of 1998. At the time, we had Chief John Nelson was leading the department, and over the next 26 years, the people who have followed were David Elliott, Hoy Philbeck, Richard Sullivan, Robert West, Wes Babcock, and myself, and we have continued on with the process of changing and modifying policies as they need to by a legislator or by the Kentucky Associations of Chiefs of Police. Currently, there's 277 professional standards that we have to meet for our policies, our training, how we operate, and we go through this process. It used to be 5 years, now it's 4 years, and we'll do like an online audit where we submit our policies for review. They will come and do an on-site visit. They'll do everything from inspecting our police cruisers to editing our evidence look at all our documents that we have done within the last several years. It's they bring out the white glove and they start wiping everything down, see what's dirty, you know. So, and for 26 years, our agency has performed, and we've met their standards, and we're very proud of that. So this is the current certificate right here. It's currently being, well, it's in my hand, but it's going to be in our lobby. When you walk into our office, you'll see this certificate, and then you'll see our Kentucky League of Cities, our insurance provider. We also got a score of 100% at our last review. We get that review every 2 years. We've been 100% with our insurance service since 2007. So I appreciate it. Thank you much.
Yeah, can I say something, Judge?
You sure can. Don't run off, we're going to get a photo.
Well, I just want to say, as sheriff, I appreciate both of these agencies so much. Both chief of police, they support the sheriff's department immensely. There's oftentimes, as you know, we don't have appropriate staffing sometimes, and guys are out in the middle of nowhere, and both these agencies help us and back us, and we greatly appreciate that. It goes a long ways. And there's a lot of agencies where sheriff's department and cities don't get along, and we have a phenomenal relationship with both. And I just want to say thank you to both of you chiefs and your agencies for what you do.
Mayor Coburn, I just seen you back there. Would you like to say a few words?
I'm just very proud of our police force. We've got a long tradition and legacy of meeting standards and hard work from our officers and our leadership. I appreciate the recognition from the court. So, thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you all for coming in. Let's get a photo, Chief Cannon. Okay, Mr. Pagel, you'd like to continue? We've got all kinds of good news here
Benton
today.
has also received, yes, sir. Benton Police Department has already also received accreditation. I believe Caleb Kurtner was the point person for that. And, like I said, 277 standards had to be met, and you probably had the same kind of treatment. Do you want to say anything?
Well, thank you for letting Chief County go first and explain all that. That'll save me some time, but yeah, it's kind of a strenuous process, I believe. Is Mike still here? I think ours was also 1998 was our first accreditation, so, and he may have said that every 5 years, but they've condensed it to every 4 years now, so it's always a stressful time when we're trying to get that done, but this is the third time I've been a part of that. Based upon how many years I have left, probably my last time, so, which will help me out.
Have you told the mayor that yet? She's just now learning that.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad it's over. It's always stressful, but we have a good police department, and we take pride in our professionalism. So thanks for recognizing us, and we appreciate it.
Thank you all. Okay. The Stilley House is hosting a lemonade stand fundraiser today for the benefit of Marcella's Kitchen from 10:30 to 2:30 at 971 Birch Street. So try to go by, visit, get some lemonade. Great cause, and I'm sure they'll be happy to see everyone. Me and Mr. Pagel's going by after a while sometime, so anyway. Here next, we have the Marshall County track team. Mr. Pagel?
Sir, we have two teams, actually, the boys and girls. What we do is when people qualify for state, have to go through it, and especially if they place at state, we recognize them. Two coaches, Corey Westerfield coaches the girls track team, Andrew Johnston coaches the boys team, and they've had a lot of success in recent years, and they have a strong past. They put in a lot of time and a lot of effort, and so we wanted to recognize them. Track meet, the state track meet isn't even until after the school year is finished, so that's why they're getting here now. I know a lot of their graduated seniors, now freshmen in college, couldn't be here today, but I'm going to call each one of them up and let them, share the podium and, go through the roster, whatever they want to do for their programs. Andrew defers to Corey.
All
I'm the public speaker of the two, I guess. First of all, thank you so much for having us here. This is the first time we've been invited to do something like this, and so we absolutely wanted to take advantage. I really appreciate Andy reaching out to us. These kids work really hard. I know looking around, I've had some of your kids on the team in the past, and this is a sport that takes a lot of self-discipline, a lot of dedication. And we start pretty early. They don't even start competing until January, but we often start in September with some training and some things like that. And several of them also run cross country, so they're already in their season. So it's good for them to be recognized for the hard work that they put in. So again, we just want to thank you all for inviting us to come. I don't have a certificate to show or anything. But if you don't care, I'll have them just come up here and stand. Is that okay? And then maybe try to tell you a little bit about what each of them does. So girls and guys, just come on up. You can talk.
Nobody wants to be the first in line.
They were gentlemen. They let the girls go first. That was good.
There you go.
So over here to my far right, you have Addison Lyles. Addison is a distance runner. I think you were 12th in the state this year in the 2 mile. She's one of the top distance runners in the state, actually, and is a senior this year. Anne Marie Peffer is next to her. She qualified for state in pole vault and is a junior. I always mess these things up. Audrey Grace Brown, some of you may know her dad, Scott Brown. Audrey throws discus for us. She qualified for state, wasn't able to go. She actually was on a mission trip. Great reason to miss going to state, so I have no problem with that. Jessica Reed is next to her. Jessica runs 400, 800, and is a freshman this year. Charlie Duncan is a sophomore. She's next to her. I call Charlie my utility player. She can run just about anything. And so she's in a lot of our relays. It's kind of an unsung position sometimes because you don't always get an individual event, but the relays wouldn't be as good without her. So they don't realize sometimes how valuable they are. And then I got my two speed demons right here, Cheney Travis and Allie Burkeen. And they're 100-meter and 200-meter runners, and pretty quick. So if any of if they have to run from any of these sheriffs or anything, they'll give you a run for your money. So I'm going to let Andrew talk about the guys real quick. But again, thank you very, very much for recognizing. Oh, and I have Eden Sandlin wasn't able to be here with us. We also had Lucy Morgan, Braylon Spalding, and then we had 4 seniors. Presley Gallimore, who was a state champion in the 400, Izzy Washburn, Phoebe Ramsey, and Bailey Allred. They're all first day of college classes today. So I couldn't talk them out of, skipping their first class. So I'll let Andrew talk.
Just want to say thank you before I get started, and we'll start with Kobe Yates. He finished 8th in the 3200 this year at state. We've got Isaac Reynolds. He stepped in and played a key role on our 4x4. The 4x4 ended up finishing 17th. Sam Morgan was a late addition, but he was a part of our 4x2 team that finished 4th in the state last year, along with Cade Sorrells, who was also a part of that 4x4 and 4x2 team. We've got Owen Futrell, who is a freshman, ended up qualifying in the 800. Some things didn't go our way. We ended up finishing 20th, but he's going to be back in Hungary this year. And then last but not least, we got Deacon Crowley. He finished 5th in discus, but is your new state champion in shot put. So, as a sophomore, yeah. So congratulations, guys. Thank you guys for recognizing us. That's it for me.
Okay, Mr. Pagel, I believe we have one more.
Yeah. Oh, something that might have been overlooked in all that, we had 2 state champions just introduced, and that was impressive. So I know Presley's in college right now, one of her first days of school, but that might have gotten overlooked. I know it was mentioned. Okay, we do have another group, and this is your headline, by the way. This is why everyone's here, I'm sure. The AP Gov class, nobody does what they did, but they did it. 19 out of 19 getting college credit on the AP exam. 19 took it, 19 received credit. Like I said, that doesn't happen, but it happened. Usually it only happens at elite schools, places nowhere near us. So that is extremely impressive for Mr. Carrick and his students. You want to say something about your accomplishments and brag on yourself and them a little bit?
I don't know about that. Well, I appreciate that introduction, Mr. Pagel. Mr. Pagel definitely knows, because some of you may not be aware that are sitting in here. He taught AP U.S. History, AP Human Geography. So unfortunately, he's gone on to bigger and greater things for our county, but he definitely knows what the class involves. First off, just starting off, I want to thank you guys for having us here. This means a lot. I was able to see, my son was on the cross-country team. You guys recognize him. That's the first. I love that y'all are doing this. This is wonderful to promote what kids around the county are doing and the hard work that they put in. So don't take this lightly. I hope they don't either. Just being here and being present, being recognized, because often in a world full of nothing but negative news and a lot of hate, this is really uplifting to see the track kids being recognized. I know the countless hours they put in, and the coaches. And so all the other groups that you guys invite here, it really does mean a lot. So thank you for taking the time. We really, really appreciate this. I want to say, I know they left, but it was really impressive also. Police Chief Sanders being recognized, Captain Kurtner, the Calvert City, the accreditation. That was really awesome to see them go through that, and then to have the Police Chief of the Year within Marshall County of all across the entire state. That's just amazing. So it's great to see the wonderful things Marshall County is doing and hopefully will continue to do. And so that's just wonderful. These kids, we talk about elite, and you mentioned that. I really feel like I'm among an elite group of kids. This has never, ever happened. I've been teaching AP Gov for too many years now. I can't even count the number of years. It was a long time ago when I started. I've had a lot of great successes. I shouldn't say I have. The kids put in the work. And so it's basically them putting in the time and the effort. This is a college level class, and if they get a 3 to a 5 on the AP score, it's recognized nationally. And so they could have easily have taken an honors class and taken honors civics and earned an easy A, but they decided to step it up, and they did it. I mean, this is just, I'm still amazed by their accomplishments this year, and it takes a lot of hours, so many hours to work and achieve this. 19 total took it. 19 passed. This is also the group that some of you have seen before. We started years ago, the AP government class, starting with a town hall meeting and a candidate forum. The first ever in the county. That was quite an experience with the candidate forum that we held years and years ago. It was wild. It was like the Wild West, trying to get people to come together and meet. And so we've come a long way in that sense of getting opposing party political members to sit down and talk. And it's been wonderful, and I think great for the community. And this year, you guys saw, they did this. They put it together. I just sort of point the finger and direct them, and they put it all together. So this is a great group. So I appreciate, again, you guys recognizing them. Again, this is an amazing accomplishment. They learned all about the United States government to the letter of the law and the Constitution. So when we have a world saying that, oh, these kids, they don't understand this, they don't know this, these guys, they know it. They really know U.S. government and how it should operate, and they know the Constitution without a doubt, and so I'm just really proud of them. You can quiz them later if you want to see if they still know it. Hopefully they haven't dumped all the information. But to recognize them, some of them aren't here, so I'm going to call them up. I'm going to call up the whole list because I think their names still deserve to be said. Some of them couldn't make it for various reasons. So 4 students received a 3. And that's the the lowest grade you can receive to get college credit. 8 students received a 4, which is a very impressive number. And then 7 of our students received a 5, and that's possibly the highest number, and that's a perfect score, the highest we received. So 100% passed, though, and that's the most important thing. And again, that is, I mean, in my opinion, and Mr. Pagel probably knows this, that to me is the equivalent of a state championship. They've done something huge. I wish we had rings. That'd be pretty awesome. We'll talk to Coach Johnson, our AD, about that. So just if they want to come up, and I think they want to come up and stand up here, if they'll come to my left. Again, if they don't stand up, unfortunately they weren't able to make it today. Faith Lee, Keaton Barrett, Vidi Patel, Malia Terry, Alyssa Kauser, Jaylee Charette, Kayla Bronson, Gracie Egner, Avery Lovett, Connor Prince, Emma Roberts, Maverick Simmons, one a little close to my heart, Sam Martin. He's at Gatton Academy, another great prestigious honor. He is attending, I got to say something a little bit about him because I'm extremely proud, sorry guys. But he was accepted into Gatton Academy, so he's finishing his last 2 years at high school, and he's going to Western Kentucky University. So he gets his diploma, and he gets 2 years of credit at Western, so he'll graduate from there with an associate's as well. Caden Seaford, Luke Chancellor, Wyatt Doon, Trinley Anderson, Elijah Holt, and Ethan Morgan. So now that I've talked enough, I'm going to, I know Luke and Ethan both want to say a little something about the class. If you guys don't mind taking a minute. I have a feeling Ethan's going to let you know that he's coming after one of your chairs when he's older, so he'll probably ask for some tips and advice. So if you guys want to come up and say something, Ethan, as well.
Let us know where you live. Okay, this is by district. What district?
Mr. Carrick likes to tell my personal business, but I've been known to say that before to governors. But I want to thank the Fiscal Court for allowing us up here. Like Mr. Carrick said, this is an unbelievable honor for this class. This class is quite rigorous. It is one of the highest AP classes that we offer at the school. All of us passing, it's incredible. Like he said, it's up to par with the state championship, and for us, 7 of us to have 5s, and we all learned a great deal of civic duty. I mean, bare minimum. We got to meet all of you guys at our town hall, and so this couldn't be done with any other AP teacher, and I really mean that. Mr. Carrick really did. We're a close-knit group. I mean, we've still been talking ever since last semester, and Mr. Carrick was a great teacher, and he's been doing this for a long time, so great experience, and just on behalf of all of us, thank you guys for recognizing us. Appreciate it.
So before I get started, I want to say, like everybody else here has said, thank you for recognizing us. It's really an honor, honestly. This class, as many people have said, it was hard. The test was very hard, the class was very hard, but overall, not just it being hard, it was also very fun. It wasn't just our group of students here who was fun, which I do want to say this was an amazing group of students. It was also Mr. Carrick. Now, he did make the class pretty hard, but overall, we still had time to have fun, to talk to each other, and I want to say we laughed probably a little too much. This class was definitely one of my favorites I've ever taken, on par with AP Human Geography, but I really like this class, and I just want to say that I'm very proud of everybody here for their accomplishments, and that I want to say thank you to Mr. Carrick for teaching us, because it really wouldn't be possible without him. Thank you.
I want to say just a little bit something too about Mr. Carrick. I will say I had 2, maybe 1, but anyway, that went through this class, and it was extremely difficult, but I know that they got a lot out of it. And I remember I graduated almost 35 years ago, but one of the biggest impacts on me was a man named Mr. Buffington, because I felt like he prepared me for college, and I believe wholeheartedly that that class certainly prepares you for college, because there's no giving in, and he's very rigorous, I know, and so I appreciate you, and I do believe 35 years from now, maybe one of mine will look back and appreciate it. I'm not sure right now necessarily, but she will then, so thank you, and great job, guys. And if you live in the 3rd District, just give me a few years, if you don't mind.
How old will you be in 35 years, Monty?
Dead. I hope. I really do.
Would anybody else like to say anything? Okay, it's photo time.
We don't have this many guests usually, but a lot of this action happened over the summer. They took the test in May, early May, and didn't get the results until the week after July 4th. So same with track. A lot of these things just transpired over the summer. So it was a lot of recognition today.
Okay, our next guest is Karen Jackson Furman with WK&T, going to talk broadband with us a little bit. Everyone's very excited to see the expansions going on, and ask her to come in and talk to us about that and take any questions, maybe. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. So I think it's been a couple of months since we've given you an update, and for those of you that don't know or don't remember, this total fiber to the home project was a $2.5 million project. It covered an estimated 249 locations, and it was 47 miles of buried fiber. The map on the screen right now you can see is the areas that we're building, and if you could go up a little bit, you can see that there's a little spot up closer to Calvert City too that will be covered. I'm happy to say that the fiber is all placed, and we're splicing and testing, and we should be able to start installations, if everything goes well, probably in about a month. So the project is just about done.
Now, we had also, I believe we have a phase 1 and phase 2. There was a second grant that we participated in. Do you know when that
We
will
made
begin?
application, yes, that was a USDA Community Connect grant, and we have not heard. We've not been awarded that grant yet. We expect a decision soon. We submitted that application probably a year ago. I believe it was a year ago. So we have not been notified either way yet, so we're still waiting.
How close to Weatherwood are y'all? Do you know? I was trying to look on the map there.
Let me, we've got Stacy Riley. He's our operations
Okay.
manager here. He might
I've
be
had a
able to
lot of
answer
calls. Basically, everybody on Weatherwood would really like for y'all to come down that road. And I know this grant covered just certain things, but my question is, do y'all also do things without grants? I mean, if y'all see an area that y'all can pick up, do y'all ever do that on your own, or do y'all just strictly go with grants and partnerships like we're doing here?
Pretty much grants and partnerships.
Okay.
Now, there is a lot of money coming down the line, probably sometime at the end of this year, starting next year. They called it BEAD.
Yeah.
42 billion. I think the government, Kentucky got about $1 billion.
Yeah.
So all them locations, Kentucky's still working on finalizing the map. Once them locations come out, then they'll start taking applications. So, you know what, we would wait and try to get the grant money, let them help with the cost.
Yeah. Now, does that work like electricity? Do y'all try to tie in other places so you can backfeed, or is it the same? Does it work the same, or is it totally different?
Similar, but what happens is our fiber kind of has a fiber dedicated to you. So more with electric, it's just going down the line, they can tap in.
Yes.
So we gotta size it to be able to do that. So
Okay.
not hardly exactly like the electric.
Okay.
But and that's some of the problems that we run into with these grants. They only want us to size it because they don't want to pay us for, well, later on you can go down.
Yeah.
Here's what we're granting you.
Mhm.
You need to size it appropriately. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We-
No, for work, lack of a better word, is there a trunk line, like a main line that you run and then you tap off of it in other areas?
We do try to do the trunk lines. It's still the same principle. We still have to have fiber, but we leave that dedicated for our equipment to run the offices. But yes, we have a trunk line, that's right. And then we
Okay.
have distribution fiber for all the subscribers.
Yeah, okay. Because that was my big thing, is I've had, I think there was eight or nine people on Weatherwood there, which I guess y'all are just on both ends of it or one end of it.
To be honest, I'd have to go look.
Well, that's what I was trying to tell with that map. It's out there at West Marshall, out there, just out of Oak Level. If you go 1949 towards Simpsonia out of Oak Level, Weatherwood cuts off and goes over to, maybe Oak Level Elva Road too. It connects the two. There's got a fire station on it.
I fully expect after the bead, that's probably gonna wind down any funding opportunities for the most part from any of the states. They're gonna be out of money.
Yeah.
After that happens, then we see what's left, and I think that'll be a business decision. Financially, does it make sense for us to go build certain areas?
Yeah.
I think that's when that will come into play.
Yeah. And there's a lot of that depend on how many would tap on in a mile or something, because that road's a little over a mile, I think.
That's right. You know, buried cable nowadays, I mean, the prices is just so, I got some that's in the $65,000-$70,000 per mile just to put it in the ground.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, you start talking 30, 40, 3 or 4 miles, you know, it starts adding up. Well, you got $250,000 here before you know it. So you gotta have a good amount of
Yeah.
people.
Do you think at some time it'll go away from wire and go to satellite only?
We don't believe
Yeah.
that will ever, in the rural areas, I think in your big cities, maybe, but in our rural areas with all the trees and the hills and the valley, I don't see it
Yeah.
ever being as good as fiber.
Yeah. Okay.
So, at one time, and I know the last time you were here, I think I asked about this, and I don't believe anything was ever sent to us, but I could be wrong. At one time, we talked about a study, and we split that cost with you, I think, right?
That was the engineering for this
It was just the
grant.
engineering. It wasn't
Yeah.
I
It wasn't 100% of the engineering, it was the engineering that we had to do in order to get the grant application together for submission.
Okay.
And then whenever we were awarded the grant, then the real engineering began as part of the build.
Okay.
But yes.
I guess maybe I misunderstood, and it's been several years ago, because we're talking about, at this point, this particular grant is ARPA money, right?
It was, I can't remember.
Or
I
was
think
it,
is.
was
I
it
think
before that
it's
even? What was the
Kentucky State.
other COVID money?
CARES money.
CARES money or something. I mean, this is
I'd have to look back.
this is a long-term project right here. I guess all I'm saying is I thought that we were going to have a study done that would show us how many households were and underserved in the county. And at that time, and this was several years ago, and I've continued to use this figure, so if I'm wrong, so be it. But I know initially we were given a figure of like $28 million at that time
To build the whole county,
to
probably?
build
Yeah.
the county, well, just the and underserved, $28 million. And so that just shows you say $41 billion, and it sounds like a lot, but when you have 50 states, and we're one of the smaller ones, we know if we get $300 million, we're doing great. And $300 million is a drop in the bucket to be able to serve the entire state. So, you know, we get more calls on internet than anything, broadband than anything. I mean, easily. I do. Maybe it's just me, but so I'm glad you all are here.
because I do think the folks, and it's easy for me individually to give those numbers, but I hope there are more watching this today that hear that incredible number. And at least understand that we are doing all that we can. I know I was fortunate enough to be one of the two representatives of CAECO to be able to speak to the housing task force just a couple of weeks ago, and it had nothing to do with necessarily building as much as it was infrastructure and specifically broadband. If we have a gap of, per the KHC study, Kentucky Housing Study, of 2,900 households that we still need to be able to have all of our, not broadband, but to be able to house the people here in Marshall County properly. And that has to take place with folks going out building homes, and that's going to be out in the county, unfortunately, probably where we don't have broadband. And so I totally understand that it's about how many households can you tap onto, but at a certain extent, it has to do with, okay, and also how much of that land can be developed for these households.
Sure.
That we need in the future,
Right.
too. So I know that's difficult. The other thing is that you're obviously a privately owned company. This is not, you're not a public utility.
Right, we're a cooperative.
You're a cooperative.
Right.
So we don't own or have any ownership in that at all. It's not
Correct.
like when we help out Benton Water or Johnson Creek Water, whatever it may be. We can't, we can't force you
Right, and,
to do it.
that's exactly
Or
right.
AT&T, or whoever it is.
That's true.
We certainly can't force that.
That's true. But as Stacy mentioned, we've got coming next the BEAD program, which stands for, I think, Broadband Equity, Access, and Deployment. So that's going to be part of that, the $1 billion that the state of Kentucky was allocated out of that $42.5 billion in the federal funds. And so that's
So we already know the figure. I'm sorry,
We know
I
the
totally
figure.
missed that.
Yeah,
All right,
well, no,
my
I
bad.
think your reference was to state allocated funds
Yeah.
of the COVID money, whether it was
Yeah.
ARPA or CARES, whichever. But the state has received another $1 billion for broadband deployment. And that's the program that's getting ready to launch. We have not seen the notice of funding opportunity on that, so we don't know exactly the rules of the game yet for the state of Kentucky, but that is something that we've applied to participate in. We're watching closely when that opportunity does actually come about. We'll be evaluating it and seeing where we can continue to expand and grow in all the counties where we currently provide service. So we'll be evaluating that.
So what is what's your message to us and our constituents anyway that call and say, do you know if we're going to get broadband in my location? Because I know we've had some miscommunication maybe with that, where they called WKNT and WKNT said, call your commissioners and fiscal
Right.
court, which we.
So the miscommunication is we have in the past, when people would ask and we didn't have a partnership or a project like this going on, they have called your office to voice a need, right? So that, we were there, we wanted to partner with you to provide a solution, but we couldn't without your help. So right now, for this area that we're currently building, if you go to our website, we have a fiber expansions link, and potential customers can actually enter their 911 address in there. and it will return, and it will tell them whether they're in this grant build area or not. And
Okay.
then they can follow along progress. It's pretty high-level description, but they can follow along progress of the grant build too, and all the other projects we've got going on. But, like I just mentioned, this one's, the fiber's placed, we're splicing, testing, we should be hooking customers up hopefully in the next 30 days. So, but they can go out and enter their address and see if they're included in this build.
So they can do that, but what process, I guess, is the best for us, like he mentioned?
Yeah, what-
He has 8 people that called him on that specific road.
Oh.
What do you want, I mean, what's that communication?
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
Would it do any good for them to call y'all and just say, hey, there's interest on this road?
You probably, yes, that'd be fine, absolutely.
Is there a person or a number to call over there? Because they're,
Yeah, I can give you my card.
Okay.
That'd be fine. Or you all can collect that data if you've got a lot of people calling the office and send it to us. Now, I can tell you that the FCC has created a brand-new map for this BEAD process to identify locations that are going to be eligible for
Yeah.
grant funding. I don't know if y'all have looked at it or not, but is it, just if you Google BDC map, broadband data collection,
So that new map is out. Last time, I think
It's-
it was still, no,
not finalized.
okay.
It changes periodically.
That's the other thing I hope people take from this
Yeah.
is that we don't, I get it. We take those calls and we obviously pass those on to you all, however we
Yeah.
do that. But also, we don't have the control over what the FCC says is and underserved
Right.
either.
So the way they did this is they created a map, and the maps have been a moving target for years. When we did our first Kentucky grants, we didn't have anything but like a PDF picture to look at. We had no location data. And now the FCC has taken on this initiative to create these nationwide maps. And as a carrier, as a broadband provider, we're required to file any updates that we have every 6 months. And then they have a company called CostQuest that they work with there's a data aggregator to produce these maps. So they take all of the challenges. There was a window, it's closed now, but there was actually a window of time where the map was open for challenges. And local governments, providers, and individuals could challenge. Look
is
like you're
that something
familiar
annually?
with this.
Is that something they do annually?
No, it was a
Oh,
one-time window.
imagine that.
Right. It was a one-time window, and now they've collected all that data. They're trying to verify that data before they produce the final location map for the distribution of the BEAD dollars. It's a process, and I can tell you right now that the maps are never right. It doesn't matter how much you try or how many iterations. They're better than they used to be, but the maps are not 100%. But if you want to go out and see the current picture, again, it will change, but the current picture, if you just Google broadband data collection map, you can go out and you can look at that and you can enter your home address and it'll take you straight to it and there'll be a dot and it will tell you if the FCC thinks you're served or not served.
Okay.
So.
It's obviously especially post-COVID it's a huge deal,
Huge deal.
and no, I know, being in real estate too, and I said it in Frankfurt, that I've probably lost a couple of deals maybe over water versus well, but I lost a whole lot over no internet.
Yeah.
Because they're coming from wherever, and they can work at home.
Oh, yeah.
And if they cannot have trusted broadband, I mean, it's
Yeah, we hear
you
this.
gotta, I gotta move you to some. I mean, we gotta find something else.
Yeah.
So
You said you're in real estate?
I am.
We have a Zillow plug-in that will also tell.
You realize that you don't mention Zillow to someone in real estate, do you? I'm gonna.
No, I didn't realize
Okay.
that. But
Going forward,
my apologies.
Zillow is a cuss word.
Isn't that usually? I think that's the high-level starting point, and then you find your local agent.
That's right. Yes.
Anyway.
Yes,
So,
FYI,
well,
don't
we'll just-
cut that
let's
out.
Strike that from the record.
No, do not cut that out. We want people to hear that. Okay, well, that'll end the discussion, right?
She knew how to shut you down.
Yeah, maybe she did that on purpose.
Is there any other questions?
Does anybody have anything else?
I just want people to know that WK&T is a private company, and when they come to us wanting those solutions, that we have very little control over it. And $28 million out of that $1 billion, what we may get $10 million out of that. So even after Project
That'd be awesome.
B, that would be great, yeah. But even after that Project B, there's still going to be
Oh, yeah.
work to be done, and it's still a very slow process. So that's all I would say, because there's areas in my district here that are unserved that are not on this map. So we don't have that end in sight for some of those people, and it hurts to tell them the truth, but I'd rather tell them the truth than to promise them that it's 2 years away and it's 8 years away. So.
Yeah.
But I will say, those that have it love it.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that.
I mean, specifically in your district in Aurora and that
Yeah.
area, man, and Hardin, down in that area, they love it.
It works.
Yep, it works.
Well, we appreciate that.
Yep.
We appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Yeah,
Marty,
thank
I'll
you.
get you my card and pass it to you just.
We appreciate you coming out. We appreciate the partnership, and please keep being aggressive on those grants. We look forward to hearing back from you.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you. Okay, next up, Mike Miller, Park Field Policies and Procedures. If you're here to speak on that today, if you would just raise your hand real quick. Okay, we have some. We have had a lot of information shared about this subject, some of it accurate, unfortunately, some of it not. So ask Ms. Moss, our park director, to prepare a presentation on that today. So that was the reason, wanted to discuss this here with everyone. Everything's open, everything that we put up here is going to be 100% accurate. So Brittany, whenever you're ready.
Yep. Any of you have the slides? Perfect. Okay, so we'll start with just saying that I cannot just randomly come up with fees and implement them. So these went through lots of conversations and lots of checks and balances before we implemented this policy. If you can go to the next slide, Andy. First and foremost, all of our fields and all of our facilities at the park can be used free of charge, if not reserved, on a first come, first served basis. This goes for baseball fields, soccer fields, pavilions, anything that we have in the park can be used free of charge if it's not reserved on a first come, first served basis, and that is not changing. So you can absolutely come out to the park any night of the week, jump on an open field and practice for as long as you want, and you will not be kicked off. So that's that. The next slide.
And now, unless there is a reservation starting at a certain time.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
And that said,
Yeah.
unless there is a reservation. This does not apply in any way, shape, form, or fashion to our rec league at Mike Miller Park. So our rec teams that play during our season, which is roughly March until mid-July, these teams pay registration fees to actually play at Mike Miller Park. And so they will not be subject to any of these fees whatsoever. During their season, they actually have priority of use on all of the fields. They get first scheduling. Other teams that may schedule a practice and pay for it can actually be bumped if one of our rec teams wants or needs the fields for a game or practice or anything else. So they are not charged for anything during our season outside of just the registration fee that they pay to play. Okay, next slide. Okay, so here is the actual policy for baseball and softball fields specifically. If you want to reserve a field, it is $10 an hour, not lined or dragged. You can request the pitching machine and use the lights free of charge within that. There are not additional charges to use the pitching machine. There are not additional charges if you're having a night practice and need the lights turned on. That's $10 an hour. There is no, you don't have to say we need 2 or 3 hours. You don't have to do that. You can do an hour practice. You can do an hour and a half practice. And that gets you put on our calendar for that reservation. The next option is $20 an hour with a 3-hour minimum. And that is if you need the field specially drug and lined, you have use of the lights, the pitching machines, the mounds, and the bases are set to your team's preference by our staff. You can also use the scoreboard if that is requested, and concessions are opened if you are having a game, which is typically what that fee is for. This is more of a game fee because that's typically the only time that we would have to specially line the fields and get into all of that. So those are all of the extra benefits that come with that. I will say the reason there is a 3-hour minimum is because our maintenance staff preps those fields during the day. They leave at 3:30, so those fields have to be, for the most part, completely prepped and ready by the time they leave at 3:30. And say, for example, if a game isn't going to start until 6 o'clock, that field has to be closed to the public essentially all day while they are working the field, and then once it's prepped and ready, it has to stay closed so that no one else comes out on the field to practice and messes up those chalked lines or any of the other prep that's gone into it. And then our tournament field policy is, as it has been for years and years, $85 per field per day for tournaments. We did a few years ago implement a 50% discount that's offered to charity fundraising tournaments. So we have like a Pick a Kid tournament that is hosted to raise money for a charity, and we do give a 50% discount for a specific charity fundraising tournament. Okay, next slide. Soccer fields. This is $10 an hour for any practice or game reservation, and that does include the use of the lights on the fields that do have lights down there. Soccer tournaments are $50 a day. The reason that is a cheaper rate than the baseball fields is because once the fields are lined for soccer tournaments, they don't have to be readjusted. With our tournament fees for baseballs, that includes our staff coming back out during the day at some point and re-prepping, relining those fields for those tournaments. So that's why there is a differentiation in the charge between a soccer tournament and a baseball tournament. One of the biggest concerns, and you can go to the next slide, is that there wouldn't be any availability for teams to come out and just grab a field. So I have actually pulled next month's schedule since we're almost done with August. This is baseball field 1. You can see there are only 3 reservations even on the field at this point. Leaving, obviously, we have 5 baseball fields at the park, so tons of availability is open for first come, first serve. And the next slide.
Let me stop you there.
Yes.
5 baseball fields of differing sizes.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we have all different sizes of fields. We only really have one field that is really for older kids. It's our grass infield, but our rec league even does use it for practice times at some point during the season just to have a field to get out on.
When we're talking about rec league, though, we are talking about, I apologize.
Yeah.
My girls did not play softball or baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So the rec leagues are differing, many different ages, right?
Correct. So we specifically at Mike Miller start at age 7.
Okay.
Before age 7, Benton runs that
Okay,
T-ball
yeah.
and
Gotcha.
an up program. We take them at 7 years old,
Yeah.
and we go all the way up to 18.
Okay.
We typically don't have very many, if any, of the older teams, but 7 to 12 and maybe 13, 14 is kind of the bulk of our teams that we have at the park.
Okay.
So you can go to the next slide. I believe I show 3 different field availabilities here. You have a few reservations scattered around. And then next slide, field 3, you have a few, but if you'll look at those times, it's only reserved from, I believe, 5:30 to 7. Or I'm sorry, 6 to 7. So there's not a, 5:30 to 7 or 6 to 10 is the tournament. So you don't have that many reservations that are taking up the field. So the chances of someone coming out to the park and not being able to get on a field due to reservations is honestly slim to none. But that reservation is there for that convenience. If you want to essentially take it out of public use, then you can reserve it for just your private group, and you pay that $10 an hour fee to make sure that no one else gets on that field for you. Okay, and if you'll go to the next slide. So we wanted to compare this to area parks. So I've reached out to several of them. If you'll look at Murray-Calloway County, they charge $10 an hour for a practice field not lined. They charge $20 an hour for a practice field with lights, but still not lined. So we are giving that option for just $10 an hour. Then if you want them to line and prep the field, there's an additional $15 on top of that. For their soccer fields, like I said, we just charge $10 an hour. Murray-Calloway is charging $30 an hour during soccer season and $10 an hour out of season without the fields being lined. Going over to Paducah, baseball fields, $10 an hour for fields not lined or dragged, $20 an hour for fields lined and dragged with a 3-hour minimum. And then on their soccer fields, they do charge the $10 per hour per field, but they also charge you $30 a week to line the fields on top of your hourly reservation charges. So then we look at Calvert. Calvert is actually a different situation. They contract their fields out to the Calvert City Baseball Softball Association. So they don't even handle, Calvert City doesn't handle any of that. It's actually operated through the CCBSA board. So if people are wanting a field, they actually have to contact their board, and it's based on whatever availability is left after their Calvert City teams have their fields scheduled. Out of season, Calvert informed me that the fields are first come, first serve, essentially. If you do make a reservation and need the field prepped, they charge you $20 a day in Calvert. We'll go ahead and go over one more thing here. If you'll go to the next slide. So the athletic fields are absolutely not the only thing that have a fee structure in the park. These have been in place for a very long time. It's the visitor center, the main pavilion, the splash pad pavilion, and the smaller pavilions, all in Mike Miller, do have a reservation fee. Again, these pavilions and facilities are the same with the exception of the visitor center because it's our office space as well. But the rest of those are all available, first come, first serve, free of charge. So you are more than welcome to come out anytime, jump in a pavilion, and have a lunch, have a birthday party, anything that you want to do. It's only if you want to reserve them and take them out of public use that we have fees in place for that reservation convenience.
So I know you had mentioned to me, I think, maybe you mentioned it in
Yeah.
too, that reservation, so like if I wanted to have a picnic, how do I know, what's the best way for me to know if it's already taken at the time?
Yep, so
That I
on the
want it.
pavilions themselves, we actually post daily. There are sheets up that show if the pavilions
That's not
are
online.
reserved.
You
It
have to
is
do-
also online, absolutely. But we do have an online calendar that is available 24 hours a day. It updates in real time from our office. And so anytime a reservation is made, it automatically updates on the website. So the general public can get on, access this calendar. You can sort by facility. So if you're looking for a specific field, a specific pavilion, that is readily accessible from phone, computer, iPad, whatever you have at any time to get on and check to see what is available and what you can reserve if you need. Absolutely. Any questions on that so far? Okay. Judge, anything else you want me to cover at this point? Okay.
Okay, whoever would like to come up and speak first?
Good morning. And my name is Colby Riley. I'm a Marshall County resident, a member of the Mike Miller West Kentucky Youth Baseball and Softball Association, the board member, a local business owner, a coach, and a father of 4. So this impacts me directly. Thank you all for the opportunity to speak today regarding the reservation fee to reserve a baseball or soccer field at the Mike Miller Park. It's my understanding that this decision was made with 3 key individuals, which would be Kevin Spraggs, Andy Pagel, and Brittany Moss, and after only consulting with the Murray-Callaway County Parks. However, it is also important to note that coaches, parents, or members of the board, members of the community were not involved in the decision-making process of this fee, which significantly affects each of us and many of us within the community. The lack of communication, consultation, excuse me, in drafting this policy is concerning. Implementing a fee structure without a comprehensive dialogue with those most affected, our community members, does not reflect transparency and inclusivity that we strive for in public decision-making. Parks funded by our hard-earned tax dollars are vital community assets meant to foster youth activities and family gatherings. In addition, if the park is properly utilized to invite organizations from outside our area, it will positively impact local businesses with sales of food, gas, and hotel expenses, all of which positively impacts the county's revenue and the bottom dollar. In my recent discussion with Mr. Pagel, talked with him on the phone, it was mentioned, perhaps unintentionally, that the reason behind this policy, and I will quote, "The park needs a break from baseball," suggesting that the fees might serve as a deterrent to coaches scheduling and using the fields. This indicates a strategic use of fees, not just for maintenance or administrative costs, but potentially as a tool to limit access. There has yet to be a statement mentioned that the park is struggling to pay its bills, so one can also draw the conclusion that this policy to charge a fee for reservation is not being implemented due to budget concerns. I'd also like to point out that we are here specifically requesting that the recent policy change to charge nonprofit youth sports teams and organizations a fee to reserve a field for a scheduled time be removed immediately. That is our request. I would also like to emphasize the true lack of burden this reservation is on the office staff at Mike Miller. To explain in detail, currently, you saw the schedule that's on there. It is very bare, and I will tell you why. All the coaches are using Calvert City and Benton as protests from this for having to pay for the reservation. I do know of 1 coach, 2 coaches that have paid, and I know 1 coach has paid $90 out of his pocket just for the month of August to practice in. So here, the schedule that we have accessible online enables coaches the ability to look in the future and see where there is an opening for every field within the schedule. Once a coach has established that there is an opening that they would like to take, they will call the office for a 1 to 2 minute conversation with the office worker, and while they confirm that the opening is there, and then they will schedule you for the requested slot, the time slot. They will edit it on the schedule so that nobody else will show up at the same time. We as coaches are not asking that the fields be mowed or prepped for practice any more than they have always been kept for as long as I've known or been around the Mike Miller Field. That park is always in pristine condition, and we're not asking for anything more than what it has been year in and year out, with the only exception of the teams that utilize a pitching machine, which is your 7 and 8 year old teams for softball and baseball. That would require one extra step for the park member to go take the machine out. And we used to be able, the coaches would do it ourselves, but we had some issues and machines got tore up this past spring. So now a park worker has to set the machine up for you. But that is the one exception beyond the simple phone call to reserve a field for practice, for an organized practice. Furthermore, the suggestion that teams could use the fields without reservation does not consider the logistics involved in organizing practices. Arranging for at least 15 parents and 15 players to show up for a practice, only to find the fields occupied or unsuitable, disrespects their time and the coach's time and the structured nature of our sports practices. The fields at Mike Miller are not uniform. As we discussed, there are different ages, different size fields. Differences in base distance, pitching machines, pitching rubbers, mean that not just any field will meet our needs for proper practice. So saying we can take a 7-year-old team and put them on field 5 or even field 3, the base distances are longer, and the big part of teaching these boys and girls is running bases, where to be fielding balls, how to be ready to catch a ball. And if a 7-year-old can't throw the ball from third base to first base, then you're really struggling with being able to have an effective practice. So today I stand before you to express a collective concern that this policy may not serve the best interest of our community and could place undue burdens on those it truly aims to benefit. We are the heart of Marshall County, and it is crucial that our community resources are managed in a way that serves us all, reflecting our shared values and needs. I urge the court to reconsider this policy, taking into account the voices of all stakeholders present today. Let's ensure the decisions affecting our community are made with our involvement and consent. Thank you again for your time. And any questions, if you do have some questions.
I guess my thing is,
we'll wait until you have more than one person that want to speak.
I mean, I'll ask Mr. Riley.
Okay.
What's the alternative? Like, if you want us to reserve the field for no fee, you're removing that field from use from 30,000 other Marshall County residents. Where do I draw the line there to, like, because I couldn't take my child out there to go run the bases if we reserve the field for this team, because this is different. I think that was a lot of the confusion. I think folks thought we were charging rec league teams for this. This is off season, this is for whatever, whether it's, because we needed a rest or whatever. I don't know about that, but if we make it public to everyone for free of charge, like, where can we draw the line to block it off and stop, my aunt and uncle from coming out there and walking the bases during your practice? Where does that help me out there and kind of help me make sense of that? Where does it become private use as opposed to, if it's public use, it's public use? Because you pay the fee to play on it, and then we block it off during the league season. That's kind of the point there, to cover the fees and the cost of the league. Kind of help me differentiate there between the two.
All right, so I do agree that there's 1,000 different ways you could handle this.
Yeah.
I think that it would need to be a collective group to try to come up with organization, a way to structure this. I am understanding that if you're holding a ball game, you're probably collecting gate fees, whether it be on a tournament or it just be a single game up at the hill for American Legion. There is money sometimes on the games that are being made. The fields have to be lined, the fields need to be drugged, it does need to be mowed, that type of thing. And I do agree that the park, even though it is a nonprofit park, it does need to gain some money back to cover maintenance fees, to cover wear and tear on your equipment, those type of things. I agree 100% that if there's money being made, but we're here talking about is practice. And so you talked about this is off season. It is off season for fall ball because Mike Miller does not offer fall ball. So all of the Mike Miller teams that play during the spring ball, They then go play at either Reedland or Lone Oak or Murray or someplace like that with their Marshall County residents. So we play at Lone Oak for fall ball, but you still got all your Marshall County residents that are trying to practice and need practice, and to take them all the way to Lone Oak just because Mike Miller doesn't offer the park and be included in that league. So then we have to, we want that practice, be able to schedule the practice. Now, my initial opinion, and I think that this could be shared and would be a thing that, one of the options to be thrown out is whoever makes the reservation, about the only way to guard it would be that they have to be a Marshall County resident whenever they make the reservation. But then they also need to have some sort of team roster to show that it's not aunt and uncle wanting to walk around the bases, that it be some sort of roster of youth athletics or organization to show that it is truly a team that is using that. Once you set that up, and that could be set up at the very beginning of whatever season or team that is, then when you call up there and they say, yes, you are Colby Riley with the Sluggers, and this is your roster, you are a Marshall County resident, yes, we can put you in on the account. And you get used to, because you call once a week and you schedule your practices out every week.
So what do you pay for the rec league in Lone Oak? What do you get out of that?
What do you pay to play there?
Yeah.
It was $85. $85.
$85 for the season.
Mm-hmm.
And you get same thing that you would get at Mike Miller Park during the rec season.
As far as same thing, what do you mean?
I don't know, because I don't have a kid.
You get a T-shirt. They schedule you for games, and yes, you can schedule practices at Lone Oak to be able to make that. But again, we're taking a whole team from Marshall to go play at Lone Oak or Murray, wherever.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's look at this from does during rec league season, I know you pay a fee as well as you do there in the fall season at Lone Oak. None of that money, though, I think we could both agree, goes to any type of maintenance, right?
The $85?
Or 70, whatever,
Yes,
is it $85 here too?
That will pay for, they have to have insurance for the kids out on their fields.
Yeah.
They have to have umpires.
Mm-hmm.
That pays for, and umpires, if you get kids that want to, they're always begging for umpires. They're $35 in the field, $45 behind the plate every game. They make good money back there. But that helps pay for the fees of the umpires. And then that also pays for the park, the chalk that they use to line the fields, the gas that they use to drag the fields, those type of things. Yes.
You think it does go to maintenance? Part of that goes to maintenance.
I think it all goes into that kitty, and then they draw out as they.
I don't know that it does.
It may.
I'll be
It
honest
may
with
not
you.
without checking.
Yeah.
But I would.
I don't know that any of that money we take as a county park and from the rec league. You know what I'm saying? The only way that we could pay for our county employees' maintenance of that field would be to actually take that money from your association. We're not going to do that.
That would be a question for Ms. Brittany. Is there any money that goes from? Let's go to the WKBSA. Is there any money that goes from WKBSA to?
No. So actually there is a slide. Let's see if we can pull this up, because I actually broke this down. Let me tell you what slide it is. This is going to be, if you'll go to ball field maintenance costs. You see that slide? Keep going. Keep going. Okay. If we start, go on a few more to the baseball, softball income versus expense. There we go. Okay, so for example, in our 23-24 fiscal year, the income we brought in from player registration was $19,375. The expense to run the league was $19,313. That covers player insurance, trophies, the end of season fireworks, scorebooks, balls, umpire payroll, umpire shirts, umpire equipment, all of the things that it takes to run the league, but no part of that helped by the ball field dirt, helped by the chalk. None of the actual field expenses, all of those were covered by the park itself.
Yeah.
There's your answer. I knew you'd have that.
Now, I will say at Lone Oak, that is run a little bit differently. Lone Oak is a private organization. That Lone Oak Baseball Board keeps all the money from their concessions. I don't know how their organization is structured and done because it is separate from the league that we participate in the spring. It is not even a part of the same league. So the Lone Oak fall ball season is not a part of WKBSA.
And is it even, we don't even know if is it a county park, county-owned park, though?
It is privately, it's kind of a privately owned thing. This Lone
Okay.
Oak Baseball Board, that is their park, their facilities,
Okay.
their board runs it, maintains it, does all of the things, from what I have been able to understand from them. I also talked to the Lone Oak president this morning, and we have, he said, either 2 or 3 teams playing from Mike Miller. From our spring season, there's only 2 or 3 teams that are playing in that Lone Oak League, which goes back to the reason why the Softball Baseball Association board at Mike Miller decided back several years ago not to do fall ball anymore, because there was not enough participation from Mike Miller teams to make it worth our while, essentially, to stay affiliated in the league. Now, with the caveat that could be changed at any time. The baseball softball board, if they decide that they want to participate in a fall league again, then that's something that may change in the future. But as it stands for the past several years, we have not, because there has not been enough team interest in
Okay. So y'all, it's not a, if we want to say, it's not an inconvenience if you choose to do it, I guess, but the issue of playing in Lone Oak is based on the association's decision, not us saying we're not going to allow fall ball. Correct? Could we agree on that?
Because there's no fall ball offered, yes, then they choose to go play.
Well, but she said, though, that the board made that decision not to offer fall ball because there weren't enough teams.
May not have been enough
Yeah.
teams, yeah.
So, but what she also said is that if there are, that you all can, or whoever makes up the board has a decision of whether to have fall ball back here. And if that took place, then you would pay the $75, $85, whatever it is, and have the same things offered to you in the fall that you have in the spring.
Yes.
Correct?
You would assume, one would assume.
No, you wouldn't assume. I'm telling you, you would. All right? I mean, I can assure you that you would have. I mean, that's one thing I can. So, I guess, you and I talked. I don't know that I know the point that you made about just one person from Marshall County being the person to schedule. I don't think that's the issue per se. I mean, we're not. I'm not concerned necessarily with how many of your people are from Marshall County and where they're from. I'm really not. I appreciate anybody that wants to be a coach, because I wouldn't. I'd be a coach before I'd be an umpire, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't take $35 to go
And I
put
will,
that shirt on.
I will
but-
make what you was talking about, whether it be the coach and the umpire. This fee is going to come out of the coach's back pocket. It's not going to be passed to the players, because this is a weekly, you pay with a credit card. The coaches are also the ones that are bringing all the balls, all the catching equipment, any extra hitting drills that they're bringing. The coaches are the ones that are out $1,000 a season, and I'm just throwing out round numbers from where I'm a coach.
Yeah.
Uniforms, I've sponsored our uniforms also, because there are players on that team, many, more than one in every team, that doesn't have the money to pay the fee to play for the league, much less extra costs. So nickel and diming in a system that doesn't need the extra money That's why I'm standing here. I am a business owner and do give a lot of extra for my kids to be able to play, for the kids on my kids' teams to be able to play. But there's going to be times where you're going to push people away from the sport because it's just too doggone expensive. And that's where I plead with you about this, to reconsider the extra costs for organization sports.
I know I'm a 4-H pistol coach, and anytime we have a participant family that in need, I mean, we all make up and make the difference. It doesn't land on one person. I don't know how it works in baseball and soccer, but in 4-H, that's the way we handle it.
We've never turned a player away that couldn't afford registration fees.
Yeah.
It's just not the registration fees, it's everything else that comes with it. I mean, any one of y'all a coach?
Yeah.
You are? You had to buy any equipment this year?
Every year I've
adding
ever
this on to us for practicing, for someone that's in the office that's sitting there typing anyways, what's $10? We're paying them more to sit there and do their job.
Thank you for that. I've coached from under 6 to the all-staters at the high school level, boys and girls, soccer. I know all about the nuances of youth sports and dealing with parents. I'm a league organizer and served as an officer. You did quote me, and you're correct in that. I said the parks need a break. Brittany outlined the season from March to, 2-3 weeks ago? The parks expend a lot of time and energy and money on it, and there needs to be an off-season. We've defined the off-season. So I understand, was it you were informing me about an app that the coaches have that you can communicate practice times? I talked to 5 coaches.
Yeah, there is. So we use GroupMe that the office, Ms. Brittany, and that they set up for the coaches for the WKBSA group to talk to each other and ask about rules and who's covering, tells who's covering for the games and stuff.
So you can communicate with one another?
Yes and no. Yes, you can, but it never includes anybody else that, like this fall ball, my boy has went to a different team. Zach has taken the sluggers for the fall ball in Lone Oak, and he is not on that. So he has no access unless they put him on there.
You can get a group text or a group app, but by far along most of my coaching, we didn't even have scheduled practice. We just showed up to practice during the season and didn't have any conflict. If we did, we might move next door, share a field. It wasn't a problem. But you seem like you're your own conflict of practice times, probably. Now, there could be the family reunion having a kickball, which is probably not going to happen. So if you guys would communicate among yourselves, you remove the biggest obstacle to field access. You could have the field. I was out there a couple, 3 weeks ago, 3 nights. No one was at the baseball fields when I pulled in. No one was at the baseball fields when I was leaving.
And that's, again...
It has nothing to do with the protest. It came before all that. So you can, and that's fine. And you've got that app. I know that the Parks Department expends a lot of time and energy. If there's a parent dispute, Brittany, by the way, they've never complained. Never once has any of our parks workers complained. But I think the county does a lot more for you guys than you realize when you recruit coaches and do background checks and write the checks for the referees. You don't see that happening with other sports. We're really supporting baseball and softball.
That we all pay for. We pay for that. Y'all don't. We pay for that. Do we not?
No.
Not for the staff,
Oh,
no.
we don't pay for the
We
background.
use
That's all including
county
our
staff.
registration fee. The background checks. Or we pay for that out of our pocket, because I did.
Yeah, you gotta pay the
Yeah, that,
So don't try to say y'all do a lot for us, because you don't.
Okay.
I'll say separately, you do a lot. The Fiscal Court does a lot for the county, and I respect all of you, but you're doing it with tax dollars, and I thank you for that. But the simple argument here is, if Brittany or whoever's involved, you're doing it with tax dollars, so it's all our money. Am I wrong? I mean, I do not understand that Eddie. I'll say what you were saying about the aunt and uncle thing, about the field. Can someone tell me the difference? Like, Miss Moss here, I'm sorry, I won't call you Miss Hargrove, so if I do, it's no disrespect, but that's what it's been for 4 years. I mean, so if I see some programs and things she's doing, my nephew, actually, she doesn't even know it's my nephew, but led one of them here recently. What's the difference in her facilitating that on county time, which I appreciate, programs for underage kids or young kids or whatever, versus these coaches volunteering their time to do the same thing without having to occupy Miss Moss's time, to bring them together, to teach them socialization. We live in a world where we don't know the difference in a boy, girl, and a cat. Let's let them be boys. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but let's let these kids be boys. $10 ain't gonna make or break this county. I really think, you guys can tell me, we're probably the wealthiest county in the region. And I see Miss Moss here, I'm so hard for me to say, to put that up there, what Marshall or Callaway's doing, I don't care what they're doing. We ought to be leading the charge. We've always been leaders in Marshall County, I feel like, and that's where we ought to be with it. And I mean no disrespect to the fiscal court, and I will say I tried to keep this as peaceful as I could. I contacted, I think, every one of you except for Monty, because I really don't know him, about this to keep this out of the public for several weeks. And Mr. Pagel, I've never met him. I spoke to him. He said the only way this could be resolved was with a public outcry. Mr. Pagel, would you agree that's...
Like just about anything else.
Sure, yeah, exactly. So that's why I went public. My post was not to disrespect anyone. If you gave me a piece of paper right now and said write down all the reasons you think this is wrong, I could. If you said write down all the reasons you think this is a great idea, I couldn't give you one. I see no difference in that and the fishing pond being stocked, the maintenance on that. We're not asking for lines. We'll rake the field, whatever. The 7, 8-year-old boys need the pitching machine. That's the only one. Now, I don't know about the girls. Some of you girls may know what it is for the girls. 7, 8-year-old boys is really the whole issue here. They're the only ones that need a pitching machine. I will gladly buy a pitching machine, but I was told we couldn't. So I haven't. I asked Miss Moss for the policy a couple weeks ago. I don't know what day that was. And I said, where could I find the policy? She said it wasn't written. Yesterday, they have a baseball practice. I go and there's a written email that there's a policy now.
I think what the cheaper alternative is, if Mike Miller truly needs a break from baseball, then allowing us with, and it could be defined however it wants to be defined, but allowing, and also part of the reason there's not more kids participating is that several working parents could not get back and forth to Lono, especially those that live on the far end of the county. It just wasn't feasible. So I can speak for our team alone, the 7-year-old boys, the half of the team that's not playing, it's because they could not get to Lono. Otherwise, they would have signed up. You're either looking at going ahead and allowing a fall ball league, which of course is not going to be as busy as spring ball because you're competing with football and other sports, and that's understandable. The push really isn't to have to push for a whole fall ball league, which is clearly more costly overall, or just allow the people who are already Mike Miller teams and established, and those in this county who we're already putting a lot of time, effort, tax money. I will say most of the parents on all the teams are working tax-paying citizens because the underprivileged cannot afford to play. And the cost of registration may be covered, but there's a lot of barriers that go into a lot of that population getting into the sports already. Sports are something that is directly related to the success of youth as they grow up and turn into productive citizens. So, overall, just allowing us to practice, which really isn't that much time or effort or energy on any park employees, or that much money, or really even any money out of anybody's pocket, because it's already just sitting there. We just need the pitching machine set out for the younger kids. Or go ahead and allow a fall ball league, which is going to cost a lot more money and a lot more time and energy overall.
My question would be, this is probably 5% of the county population that kids play ball in this county-funded park that y'all are saying it's county-funded park. All right, there's 32,000 people in Marshall County? That leaves a lot of people, they want to know why I'm spending their tax dollars for one group. See, we've got to spend that money to benefit the whole county. I understand what you're saying. I went shooting sports, it's a little different, but you look at this T-shirt I'm wearing of the high school trap team, we sell sponsors. They get a shirt somebody wants to pay a sponsorship, they get their name on the shirt for helping the kids out. It's a public-private partnership, and that takes care of your extra expenses. Your sponsors, I gladly sponsor lots of things. I'm a business owner in Marshall County. I love to help people out. To the extent I do it more than I probably should, but I love doing it. So anytime I get a chance I can help, I don't care if I get my name on it or not. Most of the time, if I need it, I need it. But I like to get my name out there. So if I can pay $50 to get my name on the back of this T-shirt, then that's what I gladly do. And there is your more than enough money to cover the ones that can't afford to pay your fees to play. That's the way we do it in our sport. I mean, why couldn't y'all do the same thing?
We all, I think, have addressed that we do that, and we have put a lot of money and time, energy, and countless hours into being in a baseball field. So that's not the issue at hand. The issue at hand is there has been no presentation of how us having to pay this, the coaches out of their pocket, pay this. And I know that $10 doesn't sound like a lot. Really probably can't get away with $10 and the pitching machine to get through a practice. So you're gonna probably be looking at more than $10. What is the benefit to the park and the county when the fields are already being maintained? There's no extra work going into it, literally, other than someone going to set up the pitching machine, which could be resolved if a deal needed to be worked out with the coaches having to do it themselves. So I don't understand where the benefit to the county is when it's already sitting there and it's penalizing the coaches and the players.
So
We can put a lot more money into an entire fall ball league, which is clearly what has been discussed, that doesn't want to happen.
So based on that, well, I disagree with you on the last thing that you said.
Yeah, it's lack of interest.
I think
is my understanding is why there's not
I think
a fall
that
ball.
is, again, your all's association has that. But so is it communication that is the issue? Is it money or is it communication? Is it, so like, for instance, if we say, you know what, this year, okay, we didn't communicate it ahead of time. It was while you've already started it, okay? But next year, know that this is gonna be in place. That's communication. That's, you know going in next year that it's gonna be that way. Are you still saying, no, that's not good enough? It's either free or we're protesting and not playing there. I mean, I think there's a different way to do that, quite honestly, than a protest.
What if the rest of the county starts
But you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean, tell me where that comes from.
Actually, my question was for you, Marty, because you just, well, not aimed at you, but you said there's 32,000 people in our county.
Yeah.
5%, I don't know the math, but 5% play baseball. How many fish in the pond?
Yeah.
We put catfish in, and I'm not aiming at you, you're just one man that
Yeah, that's fine.
We put cat, who pays for that catfish? I don't know, I'm asking you guys.
The state does.
The
It's
state does,
through
so
a
someone
program.
is paying for that, whatever. The splash pad, who pays for the water?
It's the county does.
The county pays for the water. What percentage of, just like baseball, what percentage uses splash pad? I don't understand, and I don't mean no disrespect to anyone.
Oh, I know you don't.
I don't understand how we differentiate between the splash pad and these volunteers, who I am so grateful for, because I've really found out they're all good men. And they're proving it to me here, standing up to teach my son, because I travel all the time. I'm gone. I can't be a coach. I mean, I can teach these boys how to wreck the heck out of a car, but I can't teach them how to hit a ball. You know what I mean? I never was a homer or a home run hitter, whatever. But these guys are doing it. So the least I can do is stand up for what's right with the field. I'm asking you guys to differentiate. If a tree falls across the walking path, I think the walking path is a great thing, probably gets used. What percentage of the county uses the walking path? Chainsaws cost bar, oil, gas, labor, all those things. There's no different than a pitching machine or setting a pitching machine up to me. It's people volunteering to get the kids out. The kids are what the problem is, the issue, not the issue, but that's what we're trying to do something. That's how we got that little boy was in here, was a state champion. Somebody facilitated that into fruition, and that's how we got a state champion living in Marshall County. And that these boys could be baseball champions or whatever, you know. Why are we picking on baseball is what I'm saying. Like you said, the 5%. The splash pad's the same way, the disc golf's the same way, the tennis courts are the same way. You know, we're not asking you to drag them, maintain them. We are asking for use of the pitching machine for 1 or 2 age, I don't know, however you break that down, 7, 8-year-old boys. Then then it's not an issue. I think we all agree, once we get past the 7, 8-year-old issue, we can live with it. You know what I mean? If I could. If you guys said, okay, we're gonna charge for reservation, I think it's wrong, but I would be willing to agree to that, because we'll just go practice then and won't care. We won't, whatever, but it's the pitching machine that ultimately is needed.
So to add to your 5% conversation, I agree that any given moment, the 5% is all that's being used, is using those facilities. But I would venture to say that 80% in here either themselves have played baseball, softball, or soccer, or their mom and dad have, or their kids are playing. So it touches a whole lot more in the community than it does. Yes, it's only 5% this year, but next year my boy starts and mine just quit, you know, and so then it's a revolving organization that goes. Now, to go back to the
Now, the Soccer
point,
Association, so that you know, you're not speaking for the soccer.
I'm talking about altogether at the park, charging for youth sports.
Now, we're not even just talking about baseball. We're talking about, you believe everything should just be.
Soccer and baseball, for the youth organization sports that they're working. I do agree that it is.
Now, you and I didn't talk about that.
What's that?
You and I didn't talk about
the
soccer yesterday.
Well, it's the same thing. I can't rightfully say that I disagree with the baseball charge using the calendar that's already there. All we're talking about is a communication tool. I can guarantee to my parents and my boys that at 5:30 to 7 we're going to have a baseball field. That's all I want, is to know. And then I'm going to know that, hey, Kyle's got the field at 5:30 to 7, so we're going to start at 7. And at 7 o'clock, we're going to show up and practice from 7 to 8:30. Okay, and that's all it is. But that way, when my parents show up, I'm respecting their time and the kids' time, and that way we can get practice done, we can get in and get out, get our work done. Without that tool, we show up or without paying the fee, we show up and we don't know if we're going to have a field or if we've got to go to another. And I disagree that it's only about the pitching machine, because if my boy now would be on field 3, which is a 45-foot base running path. But if I've got to take him to a 60-foot base running path, that's a completely different game. And a 9-year-old can't throw it 90 foot across to first base. They just can't do it. So it's not that you're not getting an effective practice out of that. So I think that this is for the sports fields that are being used for youth sport organization. That is, I don't think you can differentiate baseball to soccer. I think that it has to be a collective view, because it's a youth organization sport. A nonprofit, and all we're asking for is to be able to use that schedule as a tool that is already there without a fee to reserve the time. And now, if there needs to be rules and regulations, then this is not the place to set all those up. We need to form a group that can say, yes, this is, maybe you only get 2 practices. Any one person can only have 2 practices. That way it guarantees other people more time in the off season. This is off season to the WKBSA league in the spring. Same thing for off season to Dynamo in soccer. But the kids that are going to make state champions, do you think that they stop in the off season? That's not. Y'all know this. That's not when they work. That's when they work harder to perfect those times, and so we're asking for it to go back just like it was last year and the year before that and many years before. You could reserve that field by calling up and say, hey, can I keep have a practice time from 5:30 to 7 on Tuesday afternoon, because that way my boys can or girls or parents know that, hey, we're gonna have a good practice instead of getting there at 5:15 and somebody's already there at practice. Now let's go all the way up the hill, because that's the next best practice for us, and try to find a spot. Well, then we got to move the bases in, and they don't want us moving bases, because then we tear up the dirt, and you tear up, to have the practice to be a value-added practice. So
how would you determine how would you determine if 2 different teams want the same field at the same time?
It's first come on the call. So once it's reserved, then you get that field. And then the following week they can get it. Basketball's the same way for the elementary, because there's only so many basketball courts, right? We use the schools. We don't pay to reserve the field, but there is a calendar built that is organized by either a school member or someone that is the basketball, what do they call it? The guy that, there'll be somebody that unlocks the door for you to get into the basketball court in the school. We don't pay a fee to hold basketball practices. And my boy has practiced basketball all through the summer, and it's not basketball season. It's the same thing. It's county money, it's state money, it's a public thing that we are able to organize the youth sports to where they're able to show up, the time is respected, and you can get to work done.
Okay, so after hearing you all, knowing both sides too, I think there is a discussion to be had if there can be some type of compromise here. All right, I don't think we're going to have that continuing today. We're not going to figure that out today. What I would end with, though, is this. I'm willing to listen. Am I? I mean, it's 8:30 on a whatever last week for 45 minutes probably. I'm definitely willing to listen. It hurts me. I'm just going to tell you, as an elected official and a man who has lived in this county all my life, last week hurt me. I'm just going to tell you. And you didn't, none of you mentioned me personally, but you did. You did. Not you, it may not have been any of you all. But the fact, I hope these kids hear this one thing today. This is the way government is supposed to work. We're supposed to work this out. It doesn't need to be done on social media.
I agree.
And I understand what you're saying based on what you heard Mr. Pagel say. I get it. But I don't think he meant go out and let's bash employees of this county. That hurts. And you, fortunately, unfortunately, I don't care which way you look at it. The First Amendment or something tells you can say whatever you want to about me as an elected official. You can. I think it's crazy, but you can. You don't have that same right for our employees. And let's not do this. I mean, I'm willing to listen, and can we come up with some type of compromise? But I'm going to tell you, if it continues down the road of just bashing our hardworking employees, you can't fault me for being upset about that. You know, I'm not taking it out on this association so that you understand, but let's figure out a better way to do this.
Totally agree.
We all sitting here apologize for that, because that, I will speak for every one of us sitting here, that was not any of us. Our goal was to have a discussion, and I know I didn't know this man sitting beside me, his goal was not for anybody to do that, and when he got back on there, he simply made a post with what knowledge we had, because he was told we needed a public support. And in the times we live in, to get public support, that is where you're at. Now, the commentary and the unnecessary public comments, we all disagree with.
I deleted many of those comments after I woke up and Marty called me, and I deleted them because I wouldn't stand for it. I can't go any deeper with what she's saying, because I'll be the first to tell you, I'm the one that made the post. I don't know about Monty, Mr. Collins, I'll be the first one to tell you. How else am I going to get public awareness? As Mr. Pagel said, that's just like anything. How else am I going to do it? Ain't nobody listening to the radio no more, but reading the newspaper. Social media is it. I did it respectfully. I feel like, as I was asked, 100%. I respect you all. Maybe made a post saying I voted for every one of you. I was proud to, I think it's a pretty good deal if your biggest issue here is a ball field. He made a good point. You're right. I'm wrong with what you said earlier about the distance of the bases are wrong. That is just, there's no one, I can't help what other people do. That wasn't me. That was not my intention. 100% not my intention.
I'd like to say a couple things. First of all, Mr. Riley, I want to address your decision-making comment without community involvement. I personally make a lot of decisions every day. Some easy ones, some hard ones. This court makes a lot of decisions, and they're not all easy, trust me. It's not an easy job, and the decisions aren't easy. And we try to base most of those on data and comparisons to things in our state, things in surrounding counties, such as that. I had a meeting set up. Anthony reached out, hey, we need to talk. I said, when you want to meet? I was in Frankfurt at meetings trying to get grant money. He was out of town. And finally, when we got to where I could be in the office, he could come in, I think we had appointments set up for 1 o'clock the following day. I get a phone call from a family member that everybody's being attacked on social media. And I'm going to go back to what Commissioner Collins said. You know, we're fair game. He's not, his family's not, Miss Moss is not, her family's not, Kurt Kirtner's not. I have done, as far as community involvement on decisions, sometimes, you know, you can have town halls and discuss things, and sometimes, you know, there may be 10 decisions I make in a day that affects various parts of the county. But I reached back out to Anthony and I said, this needs to be discussed in open court, because I wanted to hear what you all have to say. I wanted to clear up some of the untruths that were posted on there, and I wanted all the commissioners to be involved and not to have any quorum violations. This is it up here. As far as this is some information that some may or may not be aware of or may not think it's relevant, but it cost this county $1,261,525 to run Mike Miller Park in this current budget cycle alone. Since Commissioner Collins and I have been in office, if it happens this year when we vote on our tax rate, in 5.5 years, we have reduced your property tax rate by 18.75%. So you're not sitting here talking to or looking at anyone in this group who's about raising taxes or trying to cost the citizens of this county any more money. I get it. There's a lot of things that we have to pay fees for. You go to Benton Pool. Does anybody in here go to Benton Pool? $5. I mean, I can go on and on. I've got a list of all of it. I'm not going to get into that. I'm here to hear what you all have to say. But I think this could have been avoided. We could have had this conversation without all the attacks and you know, whoever was involved in that with our employees, shame on them. And that's all I've got to say about that.
Can I add on that right there? So I first off, am not on Facebook. My wife's not. I really don't even know what all was said on Facebook other than a few conversations. And I do apologize directly for anything that was beyond a reasonable comment looking for a solution. But 3 weeks ago when I talked to Mr. Pagel, I begged him to hold a community hearing. And he said that this is not going to happen. We don't really, there's not enough people calling. We're not going to care. The policy's set, and this is the way it's going to be. That was the response that I received from Mr. Pagel on the phone. Now, I had a conversation with Kyle on the phone, and then Ms. Brittany, you've seen everything I've put on GroupMe, the app you're talking about, all with respect, asking for others to get involved. But it has went to the Facebook. So 3 weeks ago, I begged and pleaded that we would have a community hearing about this fee and was told no, that it wasn't going to happen. So there's where it started.
I'll just say that I left every coach with this comment. Right now, things aren't going to change the way they are. I didn't say anything about not caring, but right now things are the way they are. Let me know. Have a conversation with me, because calls were funneled to me, if kids aren't playing baseball because of this. Let us know. That's where I left you. So,
are you denying anything else you said?
That's where we're at. So I'll say one thing to add. So I've had 2 players that were going to play fall ball that are no longer playing fall ball because they were willing to travel to fall ball in Lonoke to play for games, but practices, because there's, like we mentioned, they're playing football, they're playing other sports. They can't travel to Lonoke once, twice a week to practice and stay in Marshall for football and different practices. So yes, we have had kids drop out when we had to move practices to away from Mike Miller.
How many times have you gone up there to practice and not been able to get a field?
I always have reserved a field whenever, and then this rule has come out, and since then, there's a little bit of a lull between then and fall ball, and now we're practicing at Calvert.
Okay, so you haven't tried to go and get a field and there hasn't been one available?
I have not.
Okay.
Also, I don't know if it's been mentioned or not, but we were told, so I'm a 7U, now 8U coach. We use the pitching machine. We've been told that you can't use the pitching machine without reservation, which I think is correct. We've also been told, and I don't think it's been mentioned, you can bring your own pitching machine. So I don't know if that's been brought up or discussed, but.
The pitching machines had to be locked up because there was damage frequently, and
some coaches that have their own pitching machine
Yeah.
or access to the pitching machine were told they cannot use it.
that is correct, due to potential damage to the field and some other issues, so.
Well, I think that's where a lot of this is coming from is, again, you brought up earlier about the lack of communication. This was thrown upon us. We were already almost to the fall ball season. We've had several practices. At the end of the coaches league in the WKBSA, it was brought up. I asked once. That's when this kind of all started, reserving the fields and the fees. So I think a lot of the frustration is that here it is, right before we're starting practices, we're gearing up to start practices. We've already telling parents that, hey, we're going to practice at Mike Miller, and then all of a sudden, no, we can't because we're going to have to pay for it. I mean, I know I speak for all the coaches. We're here for the kids. These kids, we treat them like our own.
I
We
understand
want to raise
that.
these kids. We want to do the right thing for them. It hurts me when 2 or 3 kids don't want to play anymore because they can't practice at Mike Miller. And that's where it hurts.
I understand that frustration. I will say that policy had been in place prior to, it was already going on when the WKBSA season was happening. So that is when our teams were notified about the policy as their season was ending, so that they would know what the policy was going forward since they were out of season. But outside teams and other teams had already been paying those fees prior to them being notified at the end of their season.
And
But
it's a lack of communication. It goes back to
Absolutely.
that. If we had known earlier, I don't think there would have been as much frustration from any of the coaches' part. So.
And still, I think, we're not disagreeing on the outside fees by any means. We understand all of those. I just still don't see where this fee benefits the park. I don't know that question has been answered. What was the reasoning for this fee and this policy being put into place? What is the benefit to the park versus allowing this small percentage of children to still be able to play that will continue to play and penalizing the coaches, and also losing some of the players? I would like to know the benefit of this policy, I guess, and that be explained versus, where we're hurting the kids. And again, we all will continue to stand and apologize for the things that have been said that were outside of this group, but there are several coaches sitting here, and that has not been any of our intent. We are all here because we are all very passionate about the kids, and it just feels like this was kind of a slap in the face of, we really don't want y'all practicing here, so this policy. And again, I think that was the communication, because that probably was not the intent. However, it did feel that way, and then it has affected our kids. So we would just like to find a compromise.
Was you aware that somebody offered to pay the practice fees for this year?
That was not for our team. No, sir.
Do what?
That was not for our team.
That was not for your team? Oh, there's more than one team?
There's several coaches sitting here, and several that are on board, but we're not able to attend due to conflicts with work.
And I can absolutely, let me show you. Yep. Sorry, so I'll share this with you. So to kind of explain on this side of it, let me show you a couple of things that I put together. If you will go, Andy, to the slide. Okay, go to.
These aren't numbered as far as I can see.
Okay, yes, ball field maintenance cost. Okay, so I looked at from January to current. So, and you're gonna see, obviously, the majority of this is during our spring season, okay? So we spent 530 labor hours for maintenance, prepping the fields, dragging the fields, lining, all of that stuff, just on baseball fields. This is not soccer fields, this is not any other area in the park. That does not include the time mowing, weed eating, spraying, concessions, repairs, cleaning, bathrooms, all of that stuff. Okay, so when you look at that, if we continue to dedicate as much time in the fall as we do in the spring on those fields, then we have things that we can't get to. For example, last year we were so excited the Fiscal Court for the first time gave us $20,000 in the budget, and that is solely for soccer and baseball outfield upkeep on that turf. So we are now sanding, we are fertilizing, aerating, overseeding, doing a lot of above and beyond stuff to our fields. Fall is when that typically takes place, and it's a very intensive, multiple, long, drawn-out process that we started doing last year. So having the extra maintenance of the ball fields is going to take away from what we can actually do to work the fields and kind of what is typically their off-season. With that being said, I want to look go to the next slide.
While you're doing that real
Yes.
quick, you know,
I don't think it's
that
about money
includes.
at this point. It's about I don't think it's about money at this point. I think it's about communication.
Yeah, and
we could
and
go
like
through.
the dragging of the
I
fields
mean,
and stuff. We don't want that. I mean, all we want is it mowed, and of course that's not included
In
in
that
that, which
hours.
is already being paid by the taxes anyway.
Yes.
Eddie knows whenever we played, when you was in center field at that one field, or at right field or left field, you stood in a hole.
Pretty atrocious, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was bad. But, I mean, you look at any of the fields now, any of the outfields and all that stuff, there's no grass bare whatsoever. I mean, they're all kept good.
Yes.
So it's not like they need, I don't think, they need any more maintenance done to them rather than what already is done, which is just mowed. I mean, used to, it was bare, it was terrible. Now the fields aren't. They're in good shape. The infields, you always need them drug and stuff, but we don't want that just to practice on it. You know, so when Mr. Sprague said something about the pitching machine, you know, to use a pitching machine to wear on the field and stuff, I would ask you, what is the wear that's on that field to use a pitching machine?
No, I didn't say the wear, the damage previously in the past. Yeah. And the machines were being damaged also, and that's why they're locked up now.
Well, yes, I thought you said there was damage to the field from the pitching machine. And that's what I was gonna ask you, is what damage is done to that?
I think what this fee, and what I'm gathering here, the fee was implemented just to help out with maintenance. Now, whether that's right or wrong decision, that's what we're gonna decide.
And I see what you're saying, but the thing is.
That, and it helps with reserving. It gives you a little skin in the game of reserving a field. It's got a little more, you got a little more thought to it when you've had to pay $10 to do it. You don't just on a whim do it.
Well, I think at a minimum, you have to, even if you don't pay for that field, if you reserve it and you don't use it, then you pay. That to me is at least somewhat.
You're taking
because
it.
you're taking it. The point.
You're taking that out of public use.
But like you said though, Marty, you know, you was talking about the maintenance of it. The maintenance is already being done to it. That's already in the budget.
Well, and you've seen the figures are, you know, we're just trying, in my opinion, what it was doing was to just help out recoup some of that. So that we don't have to raise taxes to cover that.
Is that's already put into the budget to begin with, right? And so whether we use it or not, it's already gonna be mowed.
Well, the more you,
and all.
yeah, but she just started talking about, and I don't know nothing about it, she's talking about how to have a mound rebuilt, pitching mound rebuilt with special dirt, you know. That is maintenance, extra maintenance that, you know, I'm just saying, I don't know. Whether it's right or wrong, that's, in my opinion, that's what their goal was with this fee, was to help recoup some of that and to help with, when you're taking something out of public service, out of public use into a private use for that game, you know, that there ought to be a little something there. Just like the pavilions, I mean, you know, if you wanted to reserve a pavilion to have a party after your game, you know, there's a little fee to have, a guarantee it'll be there when your game's over with, so nobody else has come in and I'm thinking that's why it was there,
Yes.
just for those two reasons.
And I can speak to a couple of things here. This is not in any way to try to penalize rec teams specifically. I get that rec teams are different than travel teams. The issue becomes outside of our season, we have no true way to identify those teams. I can't tell you how many times we have had travel teams call and give us a WKBSA rec team name to reserve a field because they know they don't have to pay then during the season. It's unfortunate that we have dishonest people out there that are taking advantage of the system.
I wish that there would be some way you could
Yes.
penalize it.
So we now, yes, and now we do. With our new reservation system in place, now we have a coach assigned to each team. It's attached to our system. So now we know that our WKBSA teams are going to get priority of use during the season. It can only be those teams that call in to reserve the fields. What we are looking at, though, is, for example, can you go to the very last slide? These are kind of, keep on going. It's like pictures. And this is not going to be anything new to you guys because you're out at the park all the time. But you can see on the pitching machine, we've got broken wires. We have got our backfield stops that are back behind home plate that all need to be replaced. So we have these other expenses that aren't necessarily budgeted for. But I will say, for example, the court itself, just for upcoming, just what is budgeted for this year, the court has given us $1,300 for new polycap on the outfield fences. The court has given us $50,000 for another field to be LED upgraded for the lighting. The court has given us $20,000 for that athletic grass and overseeding, and another $1,200 for ball field dirt. Okay, so there's all of that factored in. On top of that, the Park Foundation just last year spent over $100,000. So that is from the nonprofit side. We purchased the 2 fields worth of lights and those upgrades. Now the foundation money is where stuff comes in from pavilion rentals, from field rentals, from sponsors and people that hang the banners. That's where all of those funds come from. So then we're able to do things like that, like upgrade 2 new lights, 2 new fields to all LED lights. We also paid for, and I know everybody was super pumped about these, but the new big signs that hang on each field that mark which field is which down at soccer and at baseball. So we were able to fund that from our nonprofit foundation to put back into the park as well. So when these fees are captured from field reservations, if that is set to continue, then my number one thing is going to be, okay, we need new backstops hanging behind home plate. We need to completely get rid of some of the older pitching machines. The newest one we have is 2 years old, and the league actually bought that pitching machine. The park didn't even buy it. So we need to look at some of that. So this money would actually directly go back into those facilities to help make some of those improvements and to help those things, to help us have machines. Colby, I don't know how many times we had pitching machines go down this past season. It was constant repairs. So being able to come up with something where we have a little bit of a buffer in place so that we don't have to keep coming back to the court every single time something else goes wrong at the park. I know that doesn't necessarily help, but hopefully it is at least a better explanation of where those funds would actually be going to, because they would be earmarked to go directly back into the fields to help make some of those improvements.
I'll ask too, have we even looked at our finances on the park? And I'm not saying Brittany has it or any of you, but have we even looked at that and said, hey, we might can cut here or we might can do this here, to be able to say we have tried everything we could to keep from doing this fee or
So let me, as one of the folks involved in the budget, I don't know that it's cut as much as I can assure you that what she asked for and what we approved are two different numbers. I can assure you that. Yes. Now, that being said, I mean, anyone is willing to go out there and look at that budget. I mean, well, I say it's online. Okay. And you can see it. This was not a decision, so that you know, that had anything to do with the budget. I mean, as far as whenever we were talking about the budget. So I wasn't looking at, when we were discussing the $28 million budget, I wasn't thinking about, oh my God, look what we can do. We can get fees and, because I don't know that we're the wealthiest county, whoever said that, but we're doing okay, but it's because we have used that money wisely and everything. I mean, we're obviously talking about the park, and it's essential to this county. But if you were in this position, you would do the same thing. We have to initially go down the line of, we have to protect you first. We have to, unfortunately, because the state makes us, house those who tried to hurt you. And that cost us a lot of money, ridiculous amount of money. And if the state is watching, we would please appreciate some of that back so that we can put that into the park. 911, I've said this a million times, and I know it doesn't matter at this point, because I think this is about communication and not the budget, but since you asked, that fee was put in, the 911 fee, on phones, on telephones, by the way, which some of you are much younger than me, and you've probably never used one, or you remember seeing one anyway, in 1991 when I graduated high school. And it is the same fee. We have never increased that. And there is nothing that is the same cost in today that there was in 1991. So I'll defend the 6 years that he and I have been on this fiscal court to the end. And we fought to increase that budget several times. But we're there because of good, sound financial decisions that we've made. This, to me, is not a financial decision at this point. It's a I'm not all, but mostly what I'm hearing is communication. And so I do think, to put a bow on this is something that we need to discuss if there is a compromise that can be made here, and then revisit this, because, if not, we're going to continue down this road going back and forth. So, you can.
I think I'm asking it for all of us. We're all interested in this question. And I know that, Kevin, you and Mr. Pagel and Brittany made this decision. And I feel like that kind of puts you guys in the hot seat. I'm not saying you thought you were doing the right thing or the wrong thing. You were doing what had to be done. But is there a park board? Do we actually have a park board, or did the previous judge get rid of the park board?
Do you want me to?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so there is not an actual park board per se anymore. It was dissolved. We have Marshall County Parks Incorporated. It's a 501c3 nonprofit. Myself, Kevin, and Andy are just on the board of directors for that fund, and that just oversees that money. But there's not a park board that's like doing all the things that park board is
No
doing.
disrespect to you, because
Yes.
obviously you're an employee of the county, but
Yes.
and you guys would know way better than me, but I've dealt with a lot of fair boards all over the country. I've never heard of a member of a board that has a vote that is a paid employee. And then maybe I'm speaking out of turn, I'm hoping I'm making sense there, but I don't think like, any board you have has a member that's, and I'm not picking on Brittany by any means. I just think maybe that's been overlooked, and that's what's put us here. Like Bonnie said, with communication, automatically, because someone had an issue with it, instead of going to the park board and then not being able to come to terms with the park board, we had to come to the fiscal court because it was Brittany Kevin and Mr. Pagel.
Yeah. Well, it does, Anthony, but I don't know, I can't speak for the other parks. I think what maybe is something in here that we're not communicating properly with each other, though, is this. Yes, that West Kentucky Baseball Association, you all have, or whatever it's called, I'm sorry, you have your own board, obviously. You manage the money that comes in for that rec league, correct? Which is somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000, something like that. And we totally appreciate that. The budget and that park is owned by the county, though. It is not, so I do think there are probably other parks, like if we're talking about maybe Graves Mayfield, just reaching out to them, that, you know, it's like a public-private partnership, or they may not even own those fields. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know the situation with Lone Oak. But I do think that is is something maybe different from us than some of those other park boards that
I would just think that, you know, with an issue like this, if we had a park board in place, we would have been able to not had to come here and have this big public thing.
Well,
we
so,
went to them and
true.
maybe back channel through whatever we had to do.
Absolutely true. But here's what I would throw back to you, and you tell me if you just think I'm way out of line here. But that board does not have any responsibility for that park, though. That's the key. You have the responsibility for the rec league and managing that rec league, but you don't have any ownership in the fields. And so you're kind of at the, you know, you do have to work with the county, obviously, and someone has to be involved in that from the park, because it's on the park property. This is not some private property, it's on the park. And to me, what you all, in my opinion, what you all send us here for is to ensure that those department heads are doing their jobs. And yes, we're trust and verify, but to a certain extent, they've got to have some autonomy to make some decisions, you know? And I think that's a part of this that maybe the communication was not that great, and I think we need to work on some type of compromise here. But I do think there needs to be at least some appreciation for the fact that the park system is a big system. Outside that park also, it's all the, you know, that's the thing. We were put in here, fortunately or unfortunately, at the time when a lot of stuff is coming down to us. So that park's been there, 30 years? Just like a house, the roof is starting to leak at this point and it needs new HVAC, and now it's us. We didn't put it in place. I didn't vote to put the park in, but now it's my call as to how do we maintain it and maintain it properly for all of our citizens. And it's not easy. Listen, I'd love to not have to spend $750,000 on this roof on this courthouse and put it towards bringing broadband to Aurora. And, well, no, let me take that back to
You'd want it in Calvert,
most
but-
parts of Sharp.
Yeah.
Yes. We've talked about that, yes. Down 95, I apologize. But it is what it is. So there's got to be a balance there is all I'm saying. But again, I think it's something we need to discuss, and I think there's a compromise. I don't think we're going to come to it.
I want to address the gentleman that mentioned cutting cost, and you'll correct me if it's more than one, but we have eliminated a position at the park in the last few years, and
2 part-times and 1 full-time.
Not
Thank
that
you.
she's keeping up.
There you go. Not that she's counting, but I am very conservative with your tax dollars. I'm not going to get way off in the weeds, I promise, I'll be brief. But this roof here, they're about to start on that in October. That's a $500,000 gift that I inherited when I was elected, and the roof at the judicial building. We spent $200,000 on it. And we have a lot of unexpected things that pop up. Brittany called me and said, well, you want the bad news or the bad news? I said, well, I guess the bad news. She said the dock at Mike Miller Park is in really bad shape. So I went out, I think the commissioners all went out, looked at it, hopefully this thing can be fixed. No, so we've got $80,000 dock going in. But when we do something, it's like Commissioner Collins alluded to, we want it to be as nice as it was, and we want it to be something, the county can be proud of. There's a lot of homecoming photos, weddings, fishing, that happens there. So we have a lot of things that come up unexpectedly to deal with, and the budget is a moving target, but any of the department heads sitting here will tell you when it comes budget time, we are very conservative, and they have their wants and needs, and they're lucky if they get any of their wants. We've been kind of operating on needs, but hopefully each year that goes by, we're getting a lot of this maintenance behind us. We can do more and more. But with all that said, I think I would entertain this if I have a volunteer from one of the commissioners putting together a coach, park director, and a commissioner to sit down and discuss this, and the commissioner to bring a recommendation to the court.
Okay. I will make that motion with an addition that at this point, because I do think this was, and I'm not saying anything about your communication, I feel like it was done fine, but in the spirit of compromise, what I would say is if this can be put into place now, while we're while that three-person is discussing this, that it go back to not being a charge, but only charged if you reserve that and do not show up. Is that possible?
You can do that in the same
No,
motion.
it is not possible.
Because we are gonna have to have our night staff monitoring the fields and who shows up and IDing and cross-checking reservations, and that's gonna be a whole situation.
We're going to meet.
Huh?
I mean, we're going to meet in a couple of weeks. I don't think a couple of weeks is going to be real impactful. It's like I said, I'm quite certain they may not think it's convenient or the best answer, but anyone can go practice in the meantime. I mean, I think that's.
All right.
Can we practice with the pitching machines, or is that something that just, because I'll say this, if you were a WKBSA member at Calvert City and you wanted to use the pitching machine now, because you are a member now and they're saying, will you be a member next year? And you are, they allow you to use the pitching machine, their pitching machine. Now, I'm all for not having to get it out because, again, we had some tore up. You don't ever know if the maintenance guys in the afternoons, because that's the only time we can practice now with school anyway. So if the maintenance guy comes out there, the maintenance guy at night mainly is doing trash. I don't know, Miss Brittany can tell us more. Doing trash, doing a surveillance of everything. It's not like they're out mowing that I've got to take that guy away from that mowing job that he's got to go now. Stop doing that to go put the pitching machine out. Is there any way that we can have that without a reservation?
Is 2 weeks going to be critical in that? I would feel better having the three sit down and try to work this out. I mean, I think that's being fair on my end.
Procedurally, what's your motion, Monty? So I know what to second if maybe.
So my motion then is to put together a task force, I guess we would have to call it.
That sounds cool.
Or does it matter? A working group, that's right, we cannot have task force. A working group made up of one county commissioner, one member of the West Kentucky WKBSA, and the Parks Director to discuss this specific situation.
Second. And I'll volunteer. if
And
nobody else
report
wants to do it.
back
I was gonna volunteer you.
Okay.
And report back at the
by
next
the
meeting.
next
Yeah.
meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
All those in favor, we will announce who that, we'll
meeting
we'll put the
is-
other.
September 10th at 3 o'clock. Okay, have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion?
No.
All
Do we-
those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Move for a short recess.
Yes, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll call this meeting back to order. We still have a long way to go.
Let me have one. That's it? Thanks for coming.
Okay, Mr. Pagel?
Personnel changes.
July personnel changes.
All right. Switching topics. July personnel changes. Jolynn Colson, dispatcher, hired effective 7/1/24 at $16 an hour. Matt Reif, dispatcher, hired effective 7/1/24 at $16 an hour. Nathan Maxlow, termed 7/7/24. Matthew Crone, termed 7/20/24. Dennis Lewis, termed 7/10/24. Chris Holt, part-time deputy jailer, hired effective 7/10/24 at $16 an hour. Stephen Oakley, resigned effective 7/15/24. Jacob Ham, sheriff deputy, hired effective 7/15/24 at $25.46 an hour. Jason Ivy, term 7/31/24. Stephen Oakley, sheriff deputy, hired effective 7/29/24 at $24.47 an hour. Darla Dillon, retired 7/31/24. Congratulations, Miss Darla. That's it, sir.
Okay. Under old business, approve the minutes, August 6th meeting.
So move.
Second? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Need to approve the minutes for the August 8th
So
special
moved.
called meeting. Motion, second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Ordinance 2024 budget amendment, second reading.
Ordinance 2024-07, an ordinance relating to the annual budget and amendment thereof. Whereas the County of Marshall has received additional funds, now be it ordained by the Fiscal Court of Marshall County that, Section 1, the annual budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 is amended to increase revenue accounts $496,616.66. B, increase expenditure accounts for $496,616.66. Section 2, the amounts stated to the revenue and expenditure accounts in Section 1 are for governmental purposes. Approved by the Marshall County Fiscal Court the 23rd day of July, 2024. Approved as to form and classification this 14th day of August, 2024. Robert O. Brown, State and Local Finance Officer. This amendment to the budget ordinance was adopted by the Marshall County Fiscal Court, Kentucky, on this, the 20th day of August, 2024.
Need a motion to approve and adopt.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Under new business, new hires.
We have two new hires. We have Mike Moeller for the park ground supervisor at $22 an hour. And we're looking at Caleb Payton for a telecommunicator dispatcher, E911 at $16 an hour.
We approve.
Is there a second? Motion second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Rural and municipal aid resolution and agreement. I need a motion to approve the resolution and agreement and for me to sign.
I move we approve.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Speed limit on Echo Lane. Obviously, there's been some complaints there to trigger that. Need the sheriff or an appointee and the road superintendent to look at that and make a recommendation, please, to the court at the next meeting.
You need a motion for that? No, we just, okay.
Back and give us a recommendation.
All right.
If I tell you what, if you come up with a recommendation, just email it to Anita and me, and that way we can have it ready for the first reading.
Water tower.
You ain't looking at me because I'm not on it. I don't know why you're looking at me.
You asked.
I did ask, yes. I do not want to be on said committee.
Speed limit would be 75 then, wouldn't it?
Huh?
Speed
Yeah.
limit would be 75.
Right now, okay, there's no speed limit on that road, right? It's just 55.
That's correct. There's no speed
By
limit
default,
on
it's
it.
55. Yeah. Yeah, so to change it from default 55, we'd have to do an ordinance.
But there's not one on it, I don't think.
Yeah, so it's, by default, it would be 55.
Okay,
Probably,
sorry.
I'm guessing way too fast.
Okay. Okay. All right. Water tower agreement.
Is it really?
So this is an agreement that in form is basically very similar, almost identical to what we've done in the past for our sirens. But this would involve the installation of our new communications equipment on an existing water tower. And we've got that worked out. I came up with the rough draft, sent it to Kit Mathis, counsel for the water department. He made one suggestion. It looked fine to me. We've got the specifics worked out on where it's going to go exactly on the tower, so it's ready for our approval. Then North Marshall Water would approve it as well. Or I'm sorry, it's Jonathan.
Jonathan
Yeah.
Creek, yeah.
Jonathan, yeah.
Need a motion to approve and sign.
So moved.
Motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This next one, we're going to go ahead and vote on. We're still waiting on approval to see if AOC is going to pay for this or not. If they're not going to pay for it, then we will put it on hold.
Let me ask you this. This is the only question I had on this. You know, normally on all of this stuff, we have at least someone who's knowledgeable. You know what I mean? Like the elevate, I mean, I can see the prices, but do we have a point person?
I'll let Andy.
You know what I'm saying?
I'll let Andy talk on that.
I'm
He
now the
put a lot of
elevator
work
expert.
into that, and
Okay.
so he's, yeah.
Is he the one that tests and makes sure?
But I guess the other piece to that is, does ALC require any type of engineering or these? Okay,
I'll tell you that.
okay.
So first consulted AOC, and you should ask a reputable elevator company. So I asked two. And one had already been sending us stuff for 5 years, and I reached out another. They're sending the Dover DMC cars that we have over at the Judicial Building, they're functioning with, obsolete parts, and we are running out. We've hoarded as many parts as we can. We are running out. Fortunately, we haven't had any breakdowns. Okay, to my knowledge, Corey, we had any breakdowns. So I also reached out, because I wasn't done with just that, to McCracken County, Steve Doolittle, who was quick to give me some tips. Reached out to an engineer that helped us bid the roof with to get some good language in there.
Okay.
And I reached out to the Kentucky Building Department Elevator Division.
Okay. All right.
And
That satisfies you?
Satisfies me. I'm just,
No,
I
but-
mean, none of us are,
the spec does require a pre-approval from the state engineer. It is a turnkey situation. Sometimes the modernizations, the county is left up to this wiring, and county is left up to that water supply, and we made it a turnkey.
okay.
So all I'm asking for today is a motion to postpone to the next meeting. Hopefully, we will have AOC approval at that point.
Move.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Sheriff, you got anything you want to say about this?
Well, there's a whole lot of information here, and I don't know how much you need up front here. Long and short, we had 9 bids on body cameras, which surprised me. I thought we might have 1 or 2. Do I need to go through and list each one of those and how much they were?
Just so the public can know
Sure,
what we're talking
sure.
about.
Okay, well, let me
Dollar
start.
figures.
I'm gonna start from the most expensive, work my way down here. So the first one is custom signals. This is for 20 body cams, and of course, the software and the storage fees, $145,020. Next was from Lens Lock, $85,415. The next was from GTAC, $84,945. There's 2 bids from Motorola, and primarily I went back and asked them to give me a second bid. I can talk about that in a little bit in regards to triggers, but I'll get back to that. Their bid with triggers, which was not in our RFPs, the reason why I went back and asked for a second bid, was $89,900.
Can I ask you this? Now
Sure.
you've said that. Are the first 3 that you mentioned?
No.
With triggers? No.
No, none of those were with triggers.
So what you're saying is with triggers, it's more?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So that 84, 85, and 145 is on the low end. You'd have to add another 10 grand to it
Yes.
based on the specs that we need. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Good enough.
Without triggers from Motorola was $82,000.
Okay, so $7,900.
There you go.
All right.
Moving down the line, Wrap, their bid without triggers, $76,468 and 48 cents. This one, this is Wolf. Never have heard of this company at all. Without triggers, $74,825. Axon, I will say this is the one I'm most interested in. They lead the nation in body cameras and by far and large have the biggest market share. And when we applied last year for a grant, this was the company that I was looking at. Last year they bid $130,000, which is why I thought they wouldn't be an option this year, but they have restructured the company and prices have gotten very competitive, so pleased with this one. They bid it without triggers, $67,323.20. To have them go back and add triggers, $79,586.60. The last company that bid is Solutions Technology Group. Have never heard of them. Looked them up online. They don't even show any body cams on their website. They do say they offer them. They offer what's called an Axis body-worn camera. You can buy those on Amazon or Walmart. So I'm not interested in these guys, but they are $54,091.80. So they're by far the cheapest bid. Do I just proceed with my recommendation and why?
Well, just with one quick procedural question, and
Sure.
The commissioners may have some. Looking at all those, is it basically apples comparing to apples? I mean, is it pretty similar?
Yes and no, except for when you start talking about quality. Motorola and Axon are the 2 leaders in it. They would offer, in my opinion, the best quality. This Wolf I've never, ever heard of, and this Axis one, I'm unfamiliar with them, and I would assume that is a very, very off-brand. When you can get on Amazon and order them, it looks pretty suspicious.
Well, let me clarify. So in terms of, I'm not really talking about quality. I'll let you give an opinion on that.
Sure.
But in terms of product and service.
Product. The one that is Wrap, they do not offer the cell phone connectivity. They say they will in the future. They don't right now, which is one of the things we put in our specs. What we're going to be purchasing, we're not purchasing right now to turn that on where we have to pay per body cam for that service, but it is available service should you want it. Everyone else did bid that. Everyone else bid the cloud-based storage. So yes, apples and apples in the fact of what they offer, yes.
Other than that, other than the trigger that we're talking about again.
Yes.
Which is, I mean, and here's the deal. Those first 3 that you mentioned without triggers
Are way above.
are above
Correct.
Axon with triggers.
Correct.
So,
Everyone is above Axon with triggers, or without triggers, or above Axon, even at the 79 mark. The only one that's below Axon is this Solutions Technology at the 54,091. So Axon has beat everybody's bid, even adding triggers, except for this one particular company that I'm
And
unfamiliar
they're
with.
kind of the industry standard.
Oh, my goodness, by far, and
I've
Eddie can
used-
speak to that.
Yeah, I've used
They use it
Axon the whole
Murray.
year here, and they work without fail.
They're a good
You're
company.
talking triggers, light triggers.
Yeah, and to explain that, triggers on your holster, you can put what they call a trigger on your holster, so when an officer pulls his gun, that camera automatically activates. That way, in those type of situations, they don't have to think, oh, I need to push the button. The other trigger we had them bid was the blue light trigger, so if you're out to make a traffic stop, you turn your blue lights on, it automatically activates that camera. So the officer doesn't have to be thinking, I need to turn this camera on as they step out of the car. So it just creates a lot more safety for those guys. So I think they add a lot of value to the system.
Absolutely.
For
And
sure.
that's the phone Bluetooth. You can.
Yes, you can Bluetooth to your cell phone, which most of these others also offer that same feature. But the reason I'm most interested in Axon, Cracken County uses them, Paducah PD uses them, Murray Police Department uses them, Cowley County Sheriff's Department uses them. They have a list of other ones. Those are just people in our area that utilize that.
Yeah.
They lead the industry. We do a lot of, we get a lot of videos sent to us of police shootings that, you review. And by far and large, most of them in that upper right-hand corner say Axon. So they're just kind of the industry standard. When I talk to a lot of these other companies, they're always trying to hit that benchmark. We offer the same thing Axon does. We offer the same thing Axon does. So they're kind of the gold standard.
Yeah.
And the fact that they come in with the cheapest bid other than one company just blew me out of the water. So that would be my recommendation, to go with Axon on that for the 79, 586, 60.
Their videos are very user-friendly when it comes to discoveries and
Correct.
proceedings in court, too, so.
Yes. They have a link that will allow us to take what's stored on the cloud, and just send that link to the prosecutor, and he can access that along with defense. Whoever you give access to that particular link, they can view that video. They also have editing capabilities. They have the original file that can never be edited, so we're not trying to hide anything. But if you need to blur a face, if you need to take out some audio, you can do that too as well. For if you need to release something to the media.
How long they stay charged, Matt?
This one offers a 13-hour
cool.
battery life.
Okay.
Barely.
yeah, and I think I think we allotted, 90,000, so it's a little bit less than what
Right.
we're hoping.
Yeah, we're under what we
good.
allotted. And to be honest, originally I was thinking Motorola. I had spoke with those guys that I didn't think we'd ever be able to touch Axon, and I knew they were in the ballpark of 90, so I came up with that number.
Okay.
I would move to accept the bid from Axon for $79,586.60.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it a lot.
Yes, sir. We
Very much
appreciate you all. Bids on the sheriff vehicles.
Vehicles, a little less bids on these, which surprised me. I thought this would be right reversed. We only had 2 bids on vehicles. One was from David Taylor. His bid price per car was $43,843, which for 4 cars brings that to $175,372. The other bid was for Don Franklin out of Somerset. Theirs was $42,808 per car, which is $171,232. So you are $4,140 cheaper on the bid from Don Franklin than you are from David Taylor.
However,
From my perspective, it's worth the $4,140 to be able to get them locally. It's the same vehicle.
Yeah, right. These are identical vehicles.
They're identical with everything else. I would move that we accept a bid of David Taylor.
Second that.
We had a motion and a second. Discussion.
And they're pretty
Both.
available.
I was
Yeah,
gonna
that's
say.
what I was gonna ask.
Well,
Availability.
That would be my one concern is, Don Franklin says, I've got 100 of them on the ground, come get it whenever you're ready. They said they will have them, they can be delivered by August 23rd. They told me they're buying those out of Indiana, so it'd be a matter of getting them from Indiana
Taylor?
and shipped back here. Yes,
Okay.
for David Taylor.
Okay.
They told me they can have them delivered by August 23rd, so it's
4
5 days.
days.
So They sound like it's a very quick turnaround.
Actually, today is August the 20th.
20th, okay.
Yeah.
I think it's 3 days.
3 days. I'm assuming that meant from the date they dropped this off, though, so it probably would be a couple-week lead time.
Oh,
on
I
it.
got you.
But that is great news. When we used to use Enterprise, you were talking months before.
7, 8 months.
Yeah.
I want to add to this, in the past, vehicles have been on a lease program or financed, and we are moving forward with paying cash for pretty well everything across the board, and these are no exception. Matt had excess carryover for last year, so we're purchasing these vehicles outright. Very proud of that. The Sheriff's Department and this court's doing an awesome job on finances, as far as I'm concerned anyway. So we got a motion and a second. Do I have a second on that?
Yeah, Marty,
Motion second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you once again.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Well, this has been money
Don't
day.
wreck 'em.
We probably need to adjourn before we spend any more
Yeah,
money.
no, I think we just need to postpone the rest of this
Yeah,
meeting.
no more tractors.
I mean, I talked earlier a little bit about how unexpected things can come up, and they do, whether it's your home life repairs or county, and this is just yet another example of that, and it's a good example of us being financially prepared for unexpected things. So I get a call from Roy, and I think it was, you want the bad news or the bad news? We've had not one but 2 tractors completely lay down on us, and they are notorious for transmission issues. So here we are today. Roy, I'll let you take it from there.
So we received 2 bids Friday for 2 tractors. Ag Revolution and Hudson Ag bid on them. The tractors, which y'all have the papers. Ag Revolution with the 2 trade-ins come in at $299,000, and John Deere come in at a total of $385,217.52.
The Ag Revolution is, I don't think you mentioned, it's a Massey Ferguson tractor, and Roy's reached out to other road departments and talked to them about the reliability and everything like that, and he got nothing but good response on that.
Now, with that being said, though, you need, if we decide to take the Massey Ferguson and the Ag Revolution, you've got something, it'll be different than what you have on here, right, as far as the trade-in?
The trade-in will be different, that the judge has talked to the refuse board, and they would like to purchase one of our used tractors and repair it for the price of the trade-in.
Yeah.
Which was $10,000.
Yeah. And I think for them, that makes sense. It did not make sense for us to, because we would be using that way more than they would, and it was not worth throwing good money at a tractor with that age that is going to be used that much.
I mean,
we
mow,
were not going to just
840-something miles of roads.
Well, it's 950-something roads.
Close.
I don't know, I give that report, I don't remember what that was.
It's something like
California to San Francisco, or California to Maine, that's what it was.
California to Maine. So
3,000 miles.
That'd be a boring mow if you were to just take that all the way straight.
Parts of it would be pretty
that'd be
interesting.
nice.
Yeah, you might have to go,
And it is, and I want to say this too, we had the 2 transmissions go out, and they've been out for like 3 or 4 weeks. The guys really stepped up, and we're mowing really hard now to keep the complaints down, and, the visibility becomes an issue, especially Johnson grass this time of year, it grows in the intersection, but I want to shout out to the guys, they've done a real good job of stepping up without the tractors.
Yeah.
We'll authorize you to go buy them some donuts out of your own pocket.
So your recommendation is the Massey Ferguson's with Ag Revolution?
That's correct.
Okay. So this is going to be 2 motions. One motion, if the first one passes, will be to let the refuse purchased the other tractor for the trade-in value that they were giving us. So the first motion will be to accept Ag Revolution's bid for 2 tractors, taking one of ours on trade, which would be a total of $309.
So moved. Second.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Second, I need a motion to sell refuse the other tractor, which is number 39.
Correct.
For the trade-in value that was allowed of $10,000.
So move.
Second, any discussion?
No takebacks.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Once again, I'd just like to throw this out. Makes me feel good. We're paying for these tractors. They're not being leased or financed. Ordinance 2014-01, Kentucky Building Code Amendment, first reading.
Were there,
I've got it.
were there changes, or we have to read this every year, and I just have forgotten that?
This is a change with
I didn't see any.
Casey, I think. Am I wrong? Yeah, that's a change with Casey.
Where, okay. Where is it? Wasn't anything in red or anything, right?
Yeah, did y'all get a copy?
It's on, it's on the drive, but I don't see any
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back.
strike-throughs or.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and fix that. So, but we can go ahead and have the first reading. I'll go back and fix the strike-throughs and the underlines.
Okay.
And basically what this is it, we did have some names in here of people who held that office at the time, so.
Oh, okay.
It's just, that's really all the change that there is.
Okay.
So, this is amended ordinance number 2014-01, and ordinance amending ordinance number 2014-01 relating to the adoption of the uniform statewide building code. Whereas the Marshall County Fiscal Court does hereby deem it necessary to make certain changes to its existing ordinance. Now therefore be it ordained by the Fiscal Court of Marshall County that ordinance 2014-01 is hereby amended as follows. That the Kentucky Building Code promulgated in 815 KAR 7:120 and the Kentucky Residential Code promulgated in 815 KAR 7:125 by the Department of Housing, Buildings, and Constructions, Commonwealth of Kentucky, are to be enforced by Marshall County, Kentucky, as if set out at length herein. That a copy of the Kentucky Building Code and Kentucky Residential Code is on file in the office of the Marshall County Clerk. The clerk shall at all times keep a copy of said building code for reference. That a copy of this ordinance shall be transmitted to the Department of Housing, Buildings, and Construction of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. That the Marshall County Building and Electrical Office shall be designated as the local enforcement agency for said Kentucky Building Code. All building code inspections shall be performed by persons certified by the Kentucky Department of Housing, Building, and Construction and approved by this jurisdiction. All electrical inspections shall be performed by a person certified by the Kentucky Department of Housing, Buildings, and Construction as an electrical inspector and approved by this jurisdiction. That pursuant to KRS 198B.0608, a building inspection program is hereby established in Marshall County for application to all buildings subject to 815 KAR 7120, Kentucky Building Code, single-family dwellings. That the building inspection program in Marshall County shall include plan review and inspections of structures subject to 815 KAR 7125, Kentucky Residential Code. That the fees for permits and inspections shall be as provided in the attached schedule. There's no changes to that. That all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith are, to the extent of such conflict, hereby repealed. That this resolution, ordinance, make that change. That this ordinance shall take effect and be in full force when passed, published, and recorded according to law.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Deputy overtime, Sheriff?
Okay. Well, I just got done asking you guys to spend a lot of money as sheriff. I want you to know on this one, this is coming from the Board of Elections. As you know, a sheriff has to serve on the Board of Elections. They had made a motion at our last meeting that we have a deputy at each one of the vote centers during the presidential election. Just because it's such a heated, contested election this year, they thought for safety purposes, it'd be good to have a deputy there. Of course, I'm jumping up and down saying I don't have that in my budget. So they made a motion that we presented to Fiscal Court to see if the Fiscal Court would be willing to pay for those deputy salaries at each one of those 9 election precincts. I do have SROs that are out of school that day, so we have the ability to staff that as far as manpower, just not necessarily budget power. Those guys, since they're off work, 8 hours of that would be regular time. That is at 12 hours, 6 to 6, as you know. Would be 4 hours would be overtime. So for 9 guys, for 8 hours regular pay, 4 hours overtime pay, trying to scratch out some math on that, looks like that would cost $3,790.08 to pay those guys for that time. Now, that's not including any retirement benefits, or a lot of those guys are retired though, so that's not so much an issue, but all the county benefits that go with that. Mike could add a little bit more, but I don't know that we're necessarily asking for that. It's just the salary itself. So I don't know. I want you guys to think about that, have a discussion on it, see if the court lands on it.
They mandated you to do it?
No.
They haven't mandated me to do it. They've asked me to present it to the court.
This is the board who's made up of who?
Myself, Keith Travis, Tiffany Carlson.
Which are, when you say Keith Travis and Tiffany Carlson, how are they put on there, I guess is that's the parties, right?
One's
If
a
I'm right.
Republican delegate, one's a Democrat.
One's a Republican delegate, a Democrat delegate, okay, and then
Sure.
Chrissy?
And Chrissy, of course, is on it. She chairs it.
So it's just 4 of y'all.
Do you think it's necessary?
Well, let me give my opinion on that. You know, we just sat here and saw some discourse of people that were not happy. It was very civilized. I think they spoke very respectfully. Do I suspect that we're going to have problems in Marshall County in this election? To be honest, no, I don't. But then again, I'm sure the Secret Service thought that too. So is it cheap insurance? Maybe so. Do I think that personally it's necessary? I don't. Now, there's 2 individuals on the Board of Elections who adamantly disagree with me on that, so that's why I'm here. They kind of pushed the buck to me, so in a sense, we're putting it in y'all's hands as to what you want to do there. I believe, by and large, Marshall County's not going to be contested. You know, we have a lot of great citizens. In particular, the people that are showing up to vote are not my typical clientele.
It's interesting. It's an interesting ask. But I don't know that I'm prepared to make a call on that, really. Do we have to, is this something you just wanted to bring forward to us, or they need to know this?
They made a motion at our meeting to bring it in front of the court.
Okay.
They meet once a month, I think.
We've got time if we want to
We do.
postpone it.
We have time. I just wanted to put it on the agenda, get it in y'all to think about, put it in your hands.
I wouldn't worry about the voters. My only concern would be the outside influences that are outside, keeping people outside the electioneering zone and things of that nature. Like you said, the cheap insurance is what I would.
How many deputies you got on duty during the day?
Usually during the
2 or
day, 2 usually, 3 on a good day. We are actually down right now. We're still trying to hire some more to fill those slots. But on any given day on a day shift, the only nice thing is that, you know, you have myself and the chief deputy and the detectives that are usually out during the day that can help on something like that.
But you can't guarantee it because they're busy on other stuff.
Oh, yeah.
They're running call to call.
And you can require 9, or are you going to put it out there, okay, what 9 SROs want to work on your day off?
Right. I've actually put that out to Tracy Watwood. He checked with SROs. I have 9 that are willing to do it. So we have the staffing through the SROs if we choose to do it, and then doesn't pull from the road and regular duties.
If we made a motion, does it just need to be a budget amendment to the sheriff's office? Is that all you? Appropriation transfer? I would make a motion to spend up to $5,000 on security for the election.
Second.
Motion second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay. canceled the September 17th meeting. We're having a meeting on the 10th and then the 1st. So we initially, Corey and I were talking about rescheduling. I had a schedule conflict with the Judges Association meeting, and we were looking at it and decided we could just eliminate that meeting altogether. So there will be no September 17th meeting if I have a motion.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Transfers.
All right, y'all have the appropriation transfers on your drive. There are just two that were requested from the sheriff. There's also a transient tax transfer of $62,334.40.
Need a motion for the appropriation transfer?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, y'all also have the bank transfers, and those are just occupational tax budgeted subsidy to the different funds.
Move we approve.
Second.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Need a motion to pay the bills?
So move.
Second.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Can you put me down for that one? Who
I
took that?
beat you to it.
Any opposed? Motion carries.